Well, good day to you and a very warm welcome to the 26th Volkswagen Prague Marathon. We are in this capital of the Czech Republic, the city of 100 spires, the most astonishing European capital I've ever traveled to. It's like a living museum, is Prague. It wasn't really damaged by the Second World War. It has the largest palace and a monstrous castle complex up on the hill on the north bank of the Vltava River overlooking the city. We are down in the old city square on this glorious Sunday morning, myself, Tim Hutchings, and Michel Boating beside me for the next 3 hours or so here to bring you the Prague Marathon of this year. And, of course, Prague Marathon and mass running is back in the Czech Republic after a couple of very, very difficult years indeed. It is a glorious Sunday morning. Michel, it's already probably, about 18 degrees, and it's going to rise to around 23, 24 later. A bit too warm for the elite, and this is a fast race.
Yeah, when we actually, you guessed it right. When we left the hotel and we walked to the start line, you said, I don't need a jacket. I thought I still need a jacket in the morning, but yeah, it's a glorious day. Maybe not the best day for marathon running, though. Expected temperatures around the finish will be above 20 degrees, so that last half hour will be brutal for the marathon runners, and they'll have to pace themselves.
They will indeed, yes. It's probably going to compromise times for the super elite by a couple of minutes if it rises above 20 degrees. This is, of course, a race with huge international following. It attracts athletes from all over the world, everyday joggers and runners who just like to travel and race in countries throughout the planet. I think there are 88 countries represented today, but more importantly for our coverage this morning, and that's what we will focus on mostly, is the elite race and the battle of the teams, and we will explain that to you more carefully over the next few minutes. But there are 6 teams running of elite athletes, and there's the Volkswagen team, Michel.
Yeah, the Volkswagen team with, the captain is Susanna Henova, the world champion 400-meter hurdles. She's the captain of the Volkswagen team with leading athlete Ayala Abshiro. Then the Matoni team with, I would say, leading male athlete Emmanuel Saina. And Sofia Chegan, female leading athlete. Yeah, the teams, they will battle it out in a team competition, which Tim just said we'll explain later.
Well, there is that one of those teams. As I said, 6 teams Volkswagen, and team 5, that is...
team 3, it's the Burrell team.
3, excuse me.
With Keegan, Gada, Fletcher, Joglova, the leading Czech athlete, Biro Guide, and Giuseppe Girantana, and Barbora Strikova, former Grand Slam winner in the double. She's the team captain.
Kupčina Čes. And their team captain is Bara Strichova, former tennis player. The sort of moral support for that team. And that team includes Jiri Homolach and Yuma Hattori of Japan, a 2:07 performer. Hattori won the Fukuoka Marathon back in 2018 and recent 61-minute for half marathon for that Team Ches squad. Asmira Hagos is their leading light in the women's race, and she is very much amongst the favourites. 2:20 performer, that was from Amsterdam 2019.
It's the less elite team, the Adidas Runners team, composed from athletes all over Europe. Adidas Runners running group that is spread all over Europe, and they all associate with this brand, Adidas Runners. Not the elites, but maybe they can score a lot of points by breaking personal bests.
Well, that's right. So each team has 6 athletes, as you can see, like that Team Adidas Runners. Now, 4 of them are scorers, 2 of them are reserves. 1 man, 1 woman are reserves, in case any of the scoring 4 drop out. And then there are there's a sort of fifth scorer, and that is the mass runners in the race today. Uniquely, every one of the mass runners in the race today, and we're expecting around 10,000, can have signed up for one of these teams. It doesn't cost them anything. They just have to declare some support for one of the teams. And then their time is added towards the end of the day. So when we go off air, we won't know the winners of the team races, because those are, even the last scorer today in 6 or 7 hours could affect the team result.
Yeah, it's a system that really connects the mass runners with the elite runners. Last year we could say at the finish line who was the winner of the team battle. Now that will be announced later on the runners' party after all the results have come in.
And we know this is a fabulously fast course. It follows the Vltava River for most of the time. Very flat indeed. The half marathon here a month or two back was won by Kenneth Renju in 59:28. He was one of 4 athletes that went under 60 minutes in the half marathon here in Prague. And of course, they have had world records here in the past, Michel. It's a city that you just associate with superbly quick running.
Yeah, and we were discussing that last night. It's funny that everybody comes here for a fast 10K and for a fast half marathon. And we keep on believing that the course is also fast for a marathon. We see the course here drawn up for us.
Yeah, it looks quite a complicated course, but it is quick. There are these long, straight sections alongside the riverbank. That's the southernmost point at about 22K. Then they keep going up there. They pass 30K here. There's no distance markers on this map, unfortunately. They keep following the river northwards. Here they're reaching about 33K, 35K, and this is the last big right-hand turn up at the northernmost point of the course, back along the Vltava, heading westwards, and then they head back down along the avenue of all the designer stores towards the finish line here in City Square. That architecture, I sat under that tower a couple of nights ago having a cold beer, and it really is, it's like sitting back in prehistory. It's like something from a Hollywood movie. If you've seen Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, it's something like that. It is just quite remarkable, the architecture and the astonishing beauty of this city. It leaves you almost breathless.
Yeah, the pacemakers are still smiling. Of course, it's the start of a marathon. You're all excited. But they also know it's going to be a brutal task today under these conditions.
Well, the race due underway at 9 o'clock. It's one of those races where a lot of us are grateful that it's not too early in the morning, but actually many of the athletes probably wish they had been running for an hour or so, because it is going to get warmer. We're in a cabin. That's a cabin you can see just above the finish gantry there. We're in the upstairs of that, so it's a bit of a sauna in here, and it's probably going to get a lot worse over the next couple of hours. I think it's due to rise to 24 degrees this afternoon, and I was looking at a weather app, and it's going to be 28 here on Wednesday, so thank God that weather hasn't hit a couple of days earlier.
For anyone who wants to book a city trip, flying on Monday and we'll have a good week of weather.
Oh, and of course, when I was sitting out enjoying the views a couple of nights ago in the main square here, apart from that great logo, how appropriate is that in the current global climate? We run for peace. Speaking about a different kind of climate, of course, altogether. The hen parties and stag parties were out in force, Michel, I must say. It was kicking off, and it was about 6 o'clock, and it was already kicking off. Some impressive clashes between some hens and some stags. Well, they're about to get underway. The organisers hoping for around 10,000 this morning. I think the belief is that it's more likely there will be about 8,500 actually taking part. A lot of races through this spring season of 2022. Not quite generating the numbers they would like. Many races 20 or 30% down in the actual start numbers. I think a lot of people through the pandemic have just struggled to maintain focus on their training.
Yeah, it's been a hard time, but yeah, also for the organizers, of course, to keep their organizations running. And yeah, RunCzech really happy that they're back on track and that they can line up these numbers already.
Well, the race about to get underway. 9 o'clock local time, of course. Here's Central European time in the Czech Republic. The 26th Volkswagen Prague Marathon is about to get underway in the brightest sunshine possible for early May. Pace due to be quick. The elite men looking for 62.45 at for the first half. The women going out in exactly 70 minutes, I think,
70 minutes, that's the plan.
That's the mayor of Prague, who arrived literally a couple of minutes ago. There was a reserve starter, but the mayor is here. So where they go. We have racing underway. Marathon running and mass marathon running is back in Prague in 2022. The organising company that Michel mentioned of the Prague Marathon, RunCzech, have battled their way through this last couple of years. Last year, there actually was a marathon at this time, but it was an elite race only. They introduced the whole Battle of the Teams concept, but it was only an elite race incorporating as well the Czech Championships, Marathon Championships, which is in this race today as well. But last year, at this time, there were about 130 runners running around the city. And can you imagine closing down a European capital for 130 runners? I mean, it beggars belief.
Yeah, but at that time, the city of Prague was really happy to stage the event because they were also struggling with reducing numbers of tourists coming in due to the pandemic. So they really wanted to show, come back to Prague, come back. We're still a nice city, and still a lot of things are happening here, and it's safe to come.
Well, many of these citizen runners just looking to jog their way around the city, and their goal is to finish, not any particular time. Many of them running for charity. There are charity partners associated with each team, and that's really good too. The whole charity focus is gradually spreading around the major European marathons. London, probably the global leader in that respect, raises tens of millions of pounds, and hundreds of millions of pounds and euros over the years have been raised for dozens, hundreds of charities, in fact, and that is now becoming more and more common around these big city marathons in our continent, and it's spread further afield. You look at the New York Marathon, Chicago Marathon, and so on. And many of these runners, remember, have signed up for one of the 6 teams. And just to explain that scoring system for you, the athletes' times, whether they're elite or the runners towards the back, their times are converted into points using the World Athletics scoring tables, and a slight extension of that RunCzech have done. And then those points, of course, an average is created according to the number of running. So it doesn't matter if one team gets 10 athletes signing up to it and another team gets 1,000 signing up to it. The average time of those runners is what decides the points to be added.
Yeah, they had to extend it because the World Athletics points table only runs till 4 hours and 1 minute, I believe. And that's
so you wouldn't make it either?
No, I wouldn't. I would get 0 points, but that's why I'm happy with the RunCzech table. That extends it a bit further.
They extended it even a bit further for you, do you reckon, if you were going to run a marathon, Michel?
Probably, yeah. Probably they will have to adjust that. But so they're happy I didn't sign up. Yeah. So actually, the all runners, the mass runners, whoever signed up, they add one add one runner to every team. So we have 4 elite scoring and then 1 scoring from the all runners, as they are called. But it really makes them look at the elite athletes. It really connects the mass runners with the elite athletes. It's something that the sport has been struggling with, and this concept tries to to fix that.
Connecting the elite with the masses, but also just this basic team concept. You know, marathon running is renowned for being an individual sport. Long distance running, the loneliness of the long distance runner. You know, it's a pretty lonely sojourn that we all make, or used to make, several times a week or twice a day if you're a professional. And it's a lonely and isolated activity. But to come up with a concept whereby there are teams in a marathon race is absolutely brilliant. So just to remind you, there are 6 athletes in each of the 6 teams, 4 of whom are scorers, 2 men, 2 women. 1 athlete at least in those 4 has to be a Czech, and they have been balanced so that the ability across from one team to the next is more or less the same. And then those 4 athletes, the times they produce for their team are turned into points, and the points are added to the average point score from the mass runners following that team. And there's prize money, big prize money, both for the open individual race and for the team race. The winning team gets $30,000 to share up between the 6 of them. And then all the other teams get a very small token payment for not being with the winner.
Yeah. And actually, all the mass runners, they also benefit from signing up with the teams. There's all kind of perks that they can pick up from being associated with the team, and that's all done by the sponsors. So it's first kilometer went pretty fast for the men, 2:51.
That is quick.
Yeah, that's too quick. They need to settle in a bit, but it's the adrenaline of the start and the music and the entourage here in Prague that's creating really a nice atmosphere that makes you want to run.
I mean, the trend in many marathons these days, Michel, is to go out very fast, but to hold back a little bit amongst the elite and then run negative splits. You know, I think when you look at Eliud Kipchoge's world record in Berlin 4 years back, he ran negative splits, didn't he? He came back with a much stronger second half.
I still believe that's the best approach, even with the current technology in the shoes. The shoes help you, but if you run out of energy, the shoes don't give you anything. So I still think it's the best approach, but it's hard to convince people. Actually, we did some analysis together with Davor Zavija from Ikaika Management, and if you look across the board in the elites, the first 30 kilometers has gone like 1.5, 2 minutes faster overall in most marathons, but the last 12K for most it's the same. So yeah, times overall have gone quicker, but we still believe that with a more conservative approach, might even get faster.
That's interesting, isn't it? So the shoes are enabling people to get to 30K as comfortable as they used to be,
yeah,
but a minute and a half faster, and then they can close at about the same tempo. So the fatigue, the punishment of running 30K so fast doesn't happen over the last 10K.
Yeah.
There's the Charles Bridge, of course, perhaps the most famous bridge in the world. Quite astonishing structure with various statues of saints along both sides over the Vltava River. Strolled over that a couple of nights ago to go for a meal, and there are lots of glorious restaurants. You can see bottom left of picture alongside the river, and here they come. This is perhaps one of the most iconic marathon shots you'll ever get.
It's beautiful, and it's one of the few climbs as well. It's not a long one. Course is pretty flat, but yeah, we cross the river a couple of times. You need bridges for that, and there's some little elevation there, and this is one of them. In the old days of the marathon, we finished over the Charles Bridge. That would be in the final 1.5 kilometer.
Not quite big enough now for the size of this race. It was its construction started back in 1357. It was completed in 1402. Well, the religious figures were installed from 1683, so only about 350 years ago. One of the new parts of the city, I think. Today all the statues are copies. Of course, the originals are preserved in museums across the city. So the athletes negotiating the middle of the bridge, some of the good quality Czech athletes coming on behind them. But already that sun is looking a little punishing, Michel. I mean, we're feeling it even more here in this sauna-like cabin where we're commentating. Did you bring a towel?
No, but I'll take my shirt off later.
You won't. They've gone through 2K, by the way, in 5:57. So that second kilometre was a 3:06, a 2:51, and then it settled down a bit with a 3:06.
Yeah, those were the pacemakers, of course, and I hope it was more even behind them. But the one that actually have been with the pacemakers throughout from the start is Emmanuel Saina, Kenyan, with the fastest entry time. He has a personal best of 2:05 and 2 seconds. And he made a good impression in the hotel, I have to say, in the week leading up to that.
Yeah, I mean, I had a long chat with him after the press conference on Friday, and he is a very eloquent, easy to chat to guy, very, very sharp. Said his elder brother, who was a good marathon runner, paid for him to go to private school. He actually went to boarding school. His elder brother, Lawrence, was a 2:09 marathon runner and helped all of his brothers and sisters, the many siblings. In fact, Emmanuel Saina was the youngest of all of them. But more of him as we get into the meat of the race, so to speak, the Rudolfinium. Just one of these sites, Prague's prestigious concert hall, look, and one of the most significant buildings of Bohemian part of the city, period of the city. The tram lines, well, they cause problems apparently for cyclists and motorbikes galore because they are quite deep and relatively wide ruts that crisscross the city. Fabulous for those who live in the city, local transport, but for runners and cyclists, not quite so convenient. Well, coming back over the river, just they've negotiated that early loop. They take that right as they come back over to the eastern side, the city side of the river, I should say, and they will pass 3K any second. They've been running for 10 minutes now, so the leaders should have passed 3K already. That's what runner tourists from Japan, the USA, and all over the world come for, is that experience of crossing the Charles Bridge in the fresh air of a Sunday morning in May. This race continues to go from strength to strength, and for sure numbers will be back to something more normal in a year's time. So just looking at these elite athletes, Michel, and that's the Team Volkswagen colours, that blue strip, and single file there. I don't think that's because it's windy. I suspect it's because they're beginning to move at a pretty healthy clip.
Yeah, the women actually were pretty ambitious. Everybody came here with big plans. They all think they can break their personal best time with some even with minutes. So it was agreed to go out in a pace of 70 minutes, which is 2:20, and some even hope to dip under 2:20, and they would get close to the course record that's held by Lona Salpeter, the Kenyan-born who runs for Israel, who ran here 2:19:46.
Well, they've gone through 3K, the men, in 8:56 with a 2:59 clocking, so they're on 2:05:30 pace, so they're on schedule for just finishing a tiny bit inside that course record, 2:05:39 by Eliud Kiptanui, all of 12 years ago, back in 2010. Now, the fastest time in the world this year is 2:02:40. That was by Eliud Kipchoge back in Tokyo in early March. So 2:02:40, probably a little bit beyond this field on this particular day in these conditions, but anything down around the 2:06, even 2:07 area, Michel, bearing in mind the temperatures, would be fabulous running today.
Yeah. Actually, some of the athletes came in with the idea, let's run 2:04, and they were pushing for a faster split and asked if pacemakers could go faster. But with checking the weather app during the last few days while they were in the hotel, also some common sense kicked in, and the reality was there and said, yeah, 62:45, and yeah, we still have to see how many of this group can handle that pace very well. You mentioned earlier very fast 10K and half marathons in Prague Run. The mindset coming here for the marathon is not always coming for a fast time. Yet everybody comes for a 10K or half marathon for a fast time to Prague, and it's something we also have to change. Plus, well, it's May, so temperatures can be high. But yeah, 2:05, 2:06 would be pretty good.
Great
today.
running. Well, they've gone through 4K in 12:02, the leading men. That was a 3:06 kilometre. So there's been a bit of fluctuation. They started with a 2:51, then a 3:06, then a 2:59, and then a 3:06. There are a few undulations on the course which probably affect the kilometre times by 2 or 3 seconds, but they're still projected as finishing inside 2:07 in that men's race. We'll keep you abreast of those splits as best we can over this next couple of hours. Not everybody moving at something close to world record tempo. The vast majority, of course, just putting all their training of the last few months into action here. And there's not many citizen runners, joggers, everyday runners who do more than a couple of marathons a year. You get a few fanatics, don't you, Michel, who will do a circuit. They'll try and do 4 or 5 a year, traveling, running tourists. But
well, it was still hard for them to plan what they would do. Like even with Prague Marathon, we knew by end of January it would go on. Normally you would know at the end of the marathon today when will be next year's marathon. So yeah, for the organizers it's been tough, but also for people planning their budgets, planning their time, taking time off from work.
This is Risper Chabette from the Team Volkswagen, 29 years old. Her best 2:23 was in Milan last year when she was 4th, but this is her 7th marathon, so she's still learning her trade and actually knows this course pretty well, Michel. She's run here a couple of times before as Risper Chabette. She was 4th here in Prague in 2016 and 6th in 2018. Do you think it makes a big difference knowing a course?
I think it will help you to. You know, Prague is it's a bit of a special course. As you said, it looks complicated. You come at certain points 2 or 3 times. It's good for your orientation. We have some cobblestones, as you said. There's some tram rails. I think it's good to know what you can expect, but it's also good to know what is possible on this course. You know, mental issue in running is also important, and if you fool yourself before the start, positive or negatively, that can affect your race.
Pacemaker's doing a good job there, as you can see. Pace M2, M3, M4 right across the front.
We lost already 2 athletes. Ayala Abshiro is off the pace, and also Risper Chabette, both Ethiopians, running in Ayala Abshiro about 20 meters behind the leading group, and there on the right with the orange short is Risper Chabette.
Maybe that's because, Michel, they've gone through 5K in 14:49, and the last kilometre, if this is to be believed, is a 2:47. Maybe there was a downhill section on that. You can see these undulations. They've climbed up to that point and then dropping down again. So they've gone through 5K. They're now heading due east, having crossed that what is basically a road leading onto a bridge. That's why there was that bump. So they're running towards 6K and heading towards the northernmost point of the course. There is just about zero breeze. I went for a jog yesterday afternoon in the sunshine along the Vltava River, and there was no wind at all. It's been a rather glorious last 2 or 3 days. Yesterday was sunny. Friday was a little bit cloudy, but still quite mild. But today, in full force, spring sunshine has broken out. And I think a lot of these athletes, Michel, who are going to be out there for 3, 4, 5 hours are going to be feeling it.
Yeah. It's nice to be outside, but when you start running, it's maybe not that nice anymore. They'll have to hydrate well to make it till the end.
That sports complex to the right, by the way, is on an island in the middle of the Vltava, right opposite our hotel, the rather glorious Hilton Hotel, which is vast. It's a major conference facility. The elite athletes will be paying little attention to what is around them right now so much, I think, as trying to get into this rhythm. And I suppose through the first half of a marathon like this, Michel, yes, they're working a little bit, but you've really got to switch off mentally. And, you know you're in real trouble if you're working hard at halfway. So these guys, most of these guys at the moment, should be gliding along fairly effortlessly.
Yeah, they should trust the pacemakers do their job, and the only thing they have to do is follow, get every 5K, pick up your bottle, and take care of yourself well, drink enough, try to get in some energy. And yeah, really trust the process, I would say. You're getting worried about every kilometers, and we saw it was swinging a bit up and down.
There you can see the 5K splits, 14:50 in fact they're putting there, but the timing equipment we've got says 14:49. Doesn't matter. The small figure in black right in the centre there of that front rank is Ronald Correa, the 31-year-old Kenyan. He's a pacemaker today, but he is a 2:07 performer in his own right. Very experienced marathon racer. 3 times he's gone under 2:10. And that's what you need as a pacemaker, isn't it? Somebody who really knows the environment, so to speak, of running in major races, can get the tempo right to within a second or two per kilometre.
Yeah, of course. That it's important that somebody can pace well, but so it's normally a mix of somebody with experience in a marathon, but also with aspiring marathon runners. People have run very fast half marathons. Of course, because they can handle the pace so easily, and it's also for them a good opportunity to learn about the marathon.
Well, back to these leading ladies. You can see one of the Team Ches runners there, centre of picture with the orange shield number. I love those numbers. The bibs are giant shield shapes. Rather delightful. And behind her to the right with that green is a Team Matoni athlete. Just trying to see which athlete that was. Apologies for the breakup of pictures.
Sofia Chegan is in third, and we have Itayal Serihun. She's following Risper Chabette. But they in single file, they're serious running. They just decided we go for it, and let's just follow each other. And they have a good pacemaker that can bring them till the end.
If Prague is not in your bucket list, well, I hope these are pictures that are giving you a rough idea of why it should be. One of the world's most glorious cities for so many reasons. And actually, having had a couple of beers a couple of nights ago, I can tell you that the prices are pretty friendly too. If you're from
If you're from the UK.
Western Europe, if you're from the UK. Oh, what, in the Netherlands? Yeah, no, so it's no weekend away in Central Europe is a dirt cheap weekend, but Prague is pretty competitively priced, I would suggest. There's a bloke there running in a skirt in the centre with long green socks.
Yeah, I think he'll regret the wig, though, later today.
Yeah, yeah. I think you're right, too. I mean, why would anybody be running in tights on a day like this? And I can see a few pairs out there. You're going to get cold? Are you worried about getting cold? This is warm spring sunshine, and this is the leading pack of, what, about 15 strong, motoring really well. You can see Hattori there, I think it is. Yeah. Yes, Yuma Hattori, the Japanese, with the cap towards the back of this leading group of 6. Be very interested to see how he goes. He ran in the Olympics last year, didn't he? He came second in the but he came second in the Japanese trials back in 2019. And of course, the Olympics ended up being 2 years later. So the form could have been very, very different. And for him, unfortunately, it was last year.
Yeah, he finished, what, 73rd or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what I love about Japanese marathon runners, though. They'll never give up. You hardly see them DNF. They rather finish on their knees than giving up. And that's great when he won Fukuoka Marathon one time, and that's one of those elite marathons in Japan where there's only like 300, 350 runners signing.
Well, it makes him a legend, doesn't it, if you've won Fukuoka?
Yeah, winning Fukuoka in Japan, yeah.
It's like a Dutchman winning Rotterdam or an Englishman winning London and so on.
Yeah, it makes you somebody, and but in that race, everybody goes out with the first group. And you see people having splits of 64 first half and then ending up with like 84 second half. And you see them all coming in. It's great.
Well, Hattori is in really good shape. He recently ran a personal best for a half marathon. That was on the 13th of February in Yamaguchi. He ran 61:24. So don't discount Yuma Hattori of Japan. He's running for Team Chez today. Don't discount him from being right up there and possibly getting onto the rostrum at the end of this race. I think this is a day for judging your effort really carefully. It's not a day for going flat out, throwing caution to the wind and expecting to come back feeling strong, because the temperatures are going to climb. There's no doubt about this, about it. Hattori running his 7th marathon, so he's got plenty of experience. He's broken 2:10 a couple of times. M2 to the right there in the orange vest, another of the pacemakers. That's John Kamethel, who's a 60-minute half marathon runner. And he trains actually with Emmanuel Seiner, who is perhaps the pre-race favourite. Seiner.
Yeah, Seiner requested to bring one of his pacemakers. He's okay with the other two, but it's always nice to have somebody you can really relate to being in the front.
I mean, Michel, you're an agent. You look after quite a few Kenyan athletes yourself. Have you spoken to athletes who have actually said to you, yeah, look, I would much prefer to have a friend pacemaking for me, somebody that I'm familiar with, that I train with a couple of times a week or every day even?
Yeah, you get those requests, and it makes sense. The only thing you have to be careful with, like, is it not like the pacemaker asking, hey, can you use your position to get me an opportunity to pace? So you have to stay professional and see if the guy is up for the task, if he can do the job rightfully. But yeah, you get those requests, and if it really helps an athlete mentally, you should try to adhere to that wish.
So they went through 6K in 17:44. That was with a 2:55, and then 7K 20:44 at 2:59, and 8K another 2:59, and they got to 8K 5 miles in 23:42. So metronomic pacemaking at the moment in this straight, I say straight, in this consistently flat section around 6, 7, 8 kilometers, and then back 9, 10, 11, 12 kilometers is very flat too alongside the river, and they will come back here through the square right in front of us at about 12.5 kilometers. So we will see them in a little while, but it's looking good at the moment, and we'll try and bring you some of these splits for the ladies.
Yeah, the ladies should have passed 5K, of course. They passed in 16:33, which is serious pace. That's exactly 2:20 pace. 16:35 per 5 kilometer. That's 2:20 pace. And it's interesting what we see here, because we see a single file in the women. That means that the pace is solid and good. And this is what we saw a few weeks ago during Seoul Marathon, where there were no official pacemakers assigned, but the ladies agreed to go out on a fast time and found one Korean guy to help them. And they ran single file for about 35K, and then the racing started. And they ended up running 2:18, two of them, and two ladies 2:20.
In the orange vest there, that's just checking. I thought it was Dulce Felix, but it's not. There are a couple of very good Portuguese in the race today, but haven't seen them. And I don't think they'll be anywhere near the front at the moment. If they are shifting at 2:20 tempo, they will be some way back already.
Yeah, they had more of the idea of going out in 2:28, 2:29. Those are the times that will bring them to the European Championships in August.
Well, here we have the men at about 9 kilometers. So they are now heading back towards the city, heading westwards on the south bank of the Vltava. In fact, ran along this section of road yesterday on a very short, very slow jog. But the weather was similar to today, just not quite as hot. The temperatures have climbed, there's no doubt about it. Nearly 9:30 here, and a very warm morning. And actually, I was talking to, when I was talking to Emmanuel Steiner a couple of days ago, he said, well, it's the rainy period at the moment back in Kenya, so the rains, I mean, not necessarily cold, but pretty wet.
Yeah, it's pretty wet, and as they train more on dirt roads than any other athlete, I would say, it's sometimes hard, because you've trained in Kenya, Tim, yourself. You know, it's like a red clay ground, and when it's raining, it's hard to run on it. It's not just slippery, but also you carry all that clay on your shoes.
It sounds like a stupid question, but presumably when the rains are happening and their normal running routes are just a sea of mud and slippery stuff, they have to go onto the tarmac.
Yeah, they go more on the tarmac, but it's more impact, of course.
Yeah,
they're not so used to that, and traffic is a big problem in Kenya. I mean, you really need cars to protect you if you run on the road. So either you go very early, or you are surrounded by some cars that protect you. They run in big groups, which is also not easy on a tarmac road.
Yeah,
but of course they'll have to alternate. But the other thing is they don't train in the rain. So of course, if you, like in Europe, we decide at 10 o'clock we go for a run and it rains, you still go. You just put on a jacket. But Kenyans, they grow up with the idea that in the rain, you don't play outside. You're not
Hang
outside.
on a minute. That doesn't support the idea of tough training, hard.
No, they train hard, but
uncompromising.
But they just wait.
If it's raining, they just wait.
They just wait for the rain to be over.
What happens if it rains all morning?
Yeah, you train later. It's anyway. They have the whole day. They're not as fixed as we are. You know, they're flexible in. Actually, their whole life when they grow up is about being flexible. To deal with circumstances, and most of them also dealing with poverty.
Well, most of them, they get up and run about 6 in the morning, don't they? So they do the hard work for the vast majority of the time.
But even the top athletes, when they go to the track and
this is the
kids run.
The kids run. It's the climax of a series of runs that they've been making over the recent weeks, I believe.
Yeah, the RunCzech has all kind of programs, also including youth and schools, and they. It's really a movement to have everybody run, everybody fit. You organize events, but the bigger goal is to have a very healthy community.
Well, this will be the finish line for the elite in an hour and a half or so's time, slightly more than that. They've been on the road now for nearly half an hour, the main marathon field. And the fun element, of course, is vitally important to keep kids engaged. Make the mums and dads come out and see their kids enjoying themselves. All shapes, all sizes, all ages. Very welcome. And that's what I do so love about the sport of distance running. Its accessibility, its simplicity. No court or equipment or pitch required. Just the pitch, the facility, it's outside your front door. There are no excuses. Michel?
Yeah, I have tons of excuses not to run.
Go on, you can tell me about your latest injury. Well, the Volkswagen Prague Marathon of 2022 is very much all-inclusive. As you can see the clock there, bottom of screen, just ticking over 30 minutes. The elite men have gone through 10K in 29:46 now. The last couple of kilometres have been a 3:02 and a 3:01. The projected time is still 2:05.5, so just inside the course record. And as you can see from that shot, there are some very modern buildings, wonderfully new architecture in the city. That combination of old and new come together rather wonderfully in Prague. And that pack is still together. What, about 12 strong now, I suppose, Michel?
Yeah, we have, well, we've seen 8 plus 3 pacemakers, I think. That's 11. With Tori Yuma, Edwin Koske, Emmanuel Sainer, Norbert Keegan, Wagner Cerveza, Itayal Seriun, Jeffrey Diegon, and Kelkila Woldaregai. Those are passing 10K, 29:45. We have the 3 pacemakers with them. And then following on 45 seconds is Iribu Share, the Ethiopian that had to let go already after 3 or 4 kilometers. So it's a group of 11, of which 3 pacemakers.
Boat trips along the river, of course, are frequent and popular and well worth the money. And they will get an extra special view today with marathon runners pounding along the pavements either side. There it is, 29:44 at 10K for the leaders. Silas Sugut, the 23-year-old, doing a good job as a pacemaker. You mentioned, Michel, that many of the pacemakers are half-marathon specialists. Well, he's a 63-minute half-marathon runner, is Sugut. He's only run 2:19 for the full marathon, but that was in Eldoret back in June last year. And he actually ran 2:19 at altitude in Eldoret, and he was 44th position.
Yes, yeah.
Have you ever been to that marathon?
Yeah. It's actually every race you go in Kenya is fun. You know, whether it's a cross country or whether it's 800, 1500, they all go for it. And yeah, if you have a marathon and you have 300, 400 Kenyans lining up for that, they all go for it. Big groups at halfway, and yeah, you break 220, you're just top 50. And it's altitude. It's over 2,000 meter altitude. It's tough conditions. It's not flat. There are always some hills around Eldoret.
I did go there about roughly 90 years ago.
90?
I think it was, well, it was 1990. 1988, 89, I think I was in training in Kenya and visited Eldoret. It was a relatively small place then. It's a massive city now with an airport and universities. And
yeah, it really expanded. First time I was there was 97, and I always say if you would look for a restaurant at 7 o'clock, it was hard to find one open and hard to find people walking on the street. Now it's a 24-hour economy and can meet people in Eldoret every time of the day. It's really expanded. Part of it also the investments of runners. They invested in a lot of buildings, a lot of real estate, opening shops.
Well, the elite women have gone through, we're seeing the elite men. The elite women have gone through 10K in 33:10, by the way. And that will put them on schedule, 33:10 for almost exactly 2:20. So really good job being done by the pacemakers in that lead women's group and by the men in this.
There's only one pacemaker.
Pacemakers. Only one pacemaker for the women.
Women. There's one pacemaker, and
is that risky?
No, it's well, you know, it's those are men who should easily run 2:20. But. They just follow the pacemaker and they're just in line, so they don't bother each other picking up a bottle or anything. So they came with the mindset to all run fast. The racing will start later.
Well, the lead men, as I said, went through 10K in 29.46, according to our timing system. 11K 32.44 with a 2:59, so they're back onto sub 3-minute tempo through 11K. And very shortly they will take a left and head down Fashion Street towards the main square. It's about 600 or 700 meters long before they pass through City Square. And right in front of us, they'll come by any minute now, the elite athletes. The leading women, and good that they're bunched together like that, Michel, isn't it? At 2:20 tempo, it would suggest that the pace has been smart, not silly fast.
Yeah, and you don't see even changing of position, so everybody keeps his position and just let it happen. They all train for it. They all know that to pass 70 minutes is not difficult, although some of these ladies never broke 70 minutes in a half marathon, but that's because they hardly run one.
Now you can see that course to the blue carpet where the youngsters are finishing. The elite athletes will come through on the section of road just to the right of it, so they won't be running into the back of the youngsters. In other words, these elite, as they now turn left, take a left away from the Vltava River and onto Fashion Street, they will not actually go through all those youngsters, but good crowds out. And of course, beautiful weather brings out the crowds, which is another good thing. And those crowds will grow in numbers as the morning wears on.
Yeah, actually, you see that all across the marathons this spring. People have also been waiting for these events to see something happening in the city again. Rotterdam, like a month ago, it was gorgeous. It was like a street festival for most of the people. They really said we really missed this marathon.
I bet.
We really missed being on the streets with the crowds and be proud of something that happens in our city. Yeah, Tim, you said they'll pass us, but we won't see them. We covered our whole cabin.
I know. What Michel is alluding to is the fact that we're in a box cabin high above the finish line, which has glass walls, and it's a bit like a sauna they've stuck us in. So we've had to cover the walls with cardboard to hide the sunshine and stop us.
You went all MacGyver on
getting fried. So this is Paris Street, in effect, is the name. I call it Fashion Street, but it's Paryżka, which is Paris Street, leading from the river down towards the old town square. And the elite athletes at the bottom of the picture will come into view. Here they are. They will come up into the square and swing left. This is where they set off about 38 minutes ago. Good crowds here already, and they will build. And they're still moving on. 12K. The 12 kilometres was a 3:01 split, 35.45. So still heading down there around for 2:05 and a half. Really good steady pacemaking so far, Michel. Sensible pacemaking.
Yeah, okay, we get those splits per kilometer, and but you know it's taken from a car a bit ahead of the group, and it's done manually. So that might also change it a bit. But if I see everything between 2:59 and 3:01. I think it's sensible, and for the last 5-6 kilometers, they haven't done any crazy surges or anything. The group stays in one shape, and the pacemakers look comfortable.
And actually, while you and I are roasting in this little cabin out there on the streets, especially in the shade like this section, it's not particularly warm at the moment. It's probably where they're running right now. I bet you it's about 18, 19 degrees. You wouldn't want it to be much warmer.
No, but of course, when they run full in the sun and well, there's no wind, so
yeah.
you can't be covered from the wind. So normally the wind would maybe cool you down a little bit. That certainly is not there. Yeah, this is a nice part. I think some of the runners might wish they could run it up and down a couple of times. We see Emmanuel Sainer in the back of the group now. I don't know if that has to do with...
That's the powder tower. That big tower they're going to go under now. It's where the city in the days of old used to store their gunpowder.
I think Emmanuel Sainer is dropped.
Really?
Yeah, he's going under the tower now, and they're already going on the right here. He has a red vest. I only see one red vest, and that's the pacemaker that he brought. That's
now,
early.
On the basis that on a really good day, in perfect conditions, they would run around 2:05. and they're still heading for 2:05. Do you think maybe smart running would see you back about 30 seconds from the pack at halfway, and so that you're actually running for a more realistic finishing time of, say, 2:06:30, something like that?
Yeah, but then you probably should have made that decision in the first 5 kilometers. And, okay, you could still make that decision now, but I don't think it's a decision that Emmanuel Saina makes now really with a thought process, I would say. I think he's just maybe not capable of keeping the pace.
Well, they reached 10K in 29:46, and just checking what that represents in terms of finishing time, that would have them on schedule for 2:05:30, and that pace has been pretty much maintained. And from what we've been saying about the temperature climbing through the morning, Michel, and negative splits is more common nowadays. Go out with a slightly conservative first half and come back with a quicker second half. It would suggest that we're not going to see negative splits today, unless we're going to see a 2:05 or quicker clocking.
No, although there's still some guys that really look comfortable in that group, even with this pace. I really had put my money on Emmanuel Saina, to be honest. And if he's struggling now after 12.5 kilometers, that's going to be a long 30 kilometers for him. I don't think he chose to do that, but forced by the circumstances and the body telling him it's time to slow down, sir.
Well, this is the leading women's group. They're heading down Paryžka Street towards the main square. They're obviously a few minutes behind the elite men. They went through 10K in 33:10, spot on 2:20 tempo, but they remain pretty much as they have done since the starting gun, running in single file, so it is quick. They are not redlining, but they're several of these ladies will be pretty much at their limit and trying to just stay calm and maintain a steady tempo. It is so important, isn't it, to have a nice steady pace, an equilibrium where you're not worrying about accelerations and slowing down. That's what's always tiring physically and mentally.
Yeah, plus if you distribute your energy levels equally, I think there's enough scientific studies. That's the best way to run a fast time. But of course, that happens when you race each other instead of trying to run your best time. And that's what we see, for example, Boston Marathon. I think you commentated on it as well, Tim, where we heard like Jeffrey Kamethel was in a fantastic shape, but with all the surges and the up and down and the rolling hills in Boston, when it really mattered, he had nothing.
Yeah.
And you were wondering where was that shape. But that's marathon also, that if you use too much energy on a hill or...
And yet, of course, we all thought Jeffrey Kamethel, as a multiple world cross-country champion, would be suited to an undulating course.
Yes, plus that he's still very fast on a 10K. So if it's a dash to the line for the last 7K, you would say that suits him perfectly. But the first 35K, the marathon wore him out already.
But the marathon is incredibly unforgiving, isn't it? If you're 1 or 2% off your best form for some reason, it can be found out. That it's like your Achilles heel. You cannot have an Achilles heel in marathon running.
No, I always say to athletes when they have, I only have a small problem. I say, yeah, but that small problem will be a big problem in the marathon.
The marathon will find you out.
You might get away with it on a 10K or maybe even on a half marathon. The marathon is unforgiving. You have a small issue or you're not 100%. Marathon will find it out. Will tell you where's your problem.
Well, for those of you who might be thinking about it, Dulce Felix of Portugal went through 10K in 36:23, so about 3 minutes behind the main pack of leading ladies. That would suggest she's on something for around 2:30, 2:32 as a finishing time. These leading men, by the way, are ploughing along. They're continuing that really steady tempo. 11K was a 2:59, 32:44. And then the 12th, 13th and 14th kilometers have been 3:01, 3:01, 3:02. So really perfect metronomic running and tempo being laid down by the pacemakers. They're doing a wonderful job.
Yeah, and because we see the two groups, both men and both women, close to each other. In the team standings, there's 5 teams equal now. The Adidas runners is lagging a bit behind, but but we knew why. That's not really an elite team.
Hattori, interesting athlete there in the cap, the Japanese athlete center of that group right now with the red shield number, because he's looking very strong to me, Michel, and you don't get too many top-level Japanese coming to Europe and racing outside of, you know, London, Rotterdam, those 2 or 3 super fast, massive races, Berlin, of course. So it's great to have Hattori here and looking so strong.
Yeah. He's a bit of an atypical athlete. I hope we also see it in drinking stations. He has a special way of drinking. He has 2 bottles. He takes a sip from one and a sip from the other. Of course, we don't know what's inside every bottle. But
you were joking last night. It's mustard and ketchup.
No, it was not me. It was not my joke. But you can give it to me. Yeah, mustard ketchup, because it looks like mustard and ketchup bottles they take from like you get in a diner.
He's a fairly typical Japanese distance runner in that he doesn't have much speed, but he is very, very strong. So his best track 5,000 is only 13:36, but he's run 27:47 for 10,000. So he's a pretty average by international standards 5,000 runner, but a very strong 10,000 meter runner on the track. And you know, as the distances go up, so he gets better and better.
But he was a bit atypical. He was late for the technical meeting last night, and we said, "What's wrong? A Japanese late for a meeting?"
Oh, was he?
That hardly happens. Maybe he was really into the race already.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a positive thing. No, normally you won't find Japanese showing up late.
Well, he's a grafter too, is Hattori there in the cap and dark glasses in the centre of the pack. He ran the World Junior Cross Country back in 2011. He finished in 42nd place, but he's persevered, made the Japanese Olympic team. 44:45, Michel.
That's good. 15 minutes, 5K. So what we saw, the 301s, the 259, that's accurate. 15 minutes is still a good pace. It's not the 2.5 pace, but yeah, maybe people get sensible. And
well, they run a 2:57 to get the 15K.
Here we see Hattori with he hangs those 2 bottles around his neck. Oh, it's.
Oh, that's a shame. We'll catch it later on. We'll catch it later on. Still, I tell you what, this is a lovely shot of the ladies, isn't it? When you get a side-on shot like this, you get a wonderful idea of just how quickly they're moving. Pick a point on the pavement, on the sidewalk behind them, and see how quickly it disappears from view. They are flying along.
But it looked like we lost 1 or 2. We had 6. Now there are 4 left.
Out?
Oh, there's still one battling her way back to the back of the 4th lady. But the good thing is they're still surrounded by some national runners here from the Czech Republic who also want to run 2:20 time. So yeah, we have 5 ladies together, and then one trying to hang on, the last male of this group. 6 ladies still in contention.
But you always get this, don't you, in major marathons, where many of the good male runners, national standard male runners, know that the leading ladies pack is going to be moving at 2:20 pace. They just join them. They say, well, there you go. There's my pacemakers. There's a whole group of ladies. and they just tuck in behind the ladies' dedicated pacemakers and the group of females as well. And they're going to hit their 2:20 target if they're lucky.
No, it's very clever running from their side. If that's your level, that's you run with the pros, and you know they have an even pace. I think we lost Sainer for good. He's too far behind now.
Does look like it. How many in that pack? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I think 12 there still. The pacemakers, still 3 pacemakers across the front with nearly 49 minutes on the clock. They are moving well. And I suppose, though, you know, we have to remember the old adage, Michel, that the halfway point in this marathon is at 20 miles out of the 26. So let's call it 30K is the halfway point in effect, because you've got to get to 30K in pretty good shape if you're going to run a strong last 10K and have a good result.
Yeah, it's decided in those final miles.
16K. Now that 16th kilometre was a 3:05. I wonder if that's just a slight slowing, or if it was a climb up onto that bridge they came off just now.
It includes a drinking station, and they crossed the river again.
So they're approaching 17K. Yeah, so this is where they zigzag quite a bit crossing the river, and that involves, whenever they go onto and off the bridges, there are climbs and drops. And heading southwards now towards the... They actually make a little detour at 17k. They take a left away from the river and make a loop in the south of the city centre and then drop down to the southernmost point of the course at 22k, just past halfway.
Yeah, and for your point, Tim, like, would people take a more sensible pace? We saw Ayala Abshiro and Risper Chabette drop off early before the 5K, but they're not running a sensible pace in the sense that because they are slowing down as well. They're over a minute behind this group already. Actually, almost 1.5 minutes behind this group. Koske makes a good impression to me. Running for Volkswagen team, Edwin Koske.
Yeah, Koske is a 2:07 performer. That was in Siena last year, that very fast marathon where he ran 2:07 and finished 13th. That was extraordinary, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it wasn't the best of circumstances. It was organized on an airfield. It was like a sort of airport. Not in use, but so it was flat, but the course was a bit strange, and it was a lot of wind at one side. So they had very irregular kilometers. They had like 250s and then 312s and all this. And it was won by Eric Kiptanui.
So the ladies have reached 15k. And just looking at Risper Chabette and Asmira Hagos and Bekelec, Borecha and Bero Gide. All up there in 49.35, 49.36 at 10k, the ladies, at 15k rather.
Yeah, they still run fast. Here we see that those points. Every team still has people in the leading group. So there's no points difference at the moment.
The ladies, by the way, as we see this lead pack of men, just checking the split, 49.36, has them now on 2:19 tempo, so they could be heading for course record. There's the team scores, left of picture, top left of picture. They're very, very similar. There's hardly anything between them at the moment. We knew that the Team Adidas runners group would be a little bit bringing up the rear. They don't have quite the same elite presence as the other 5 sponsored teams, but virtually, well, there is, according to that score, nothing in it at the moment. It's relatively early days for these elite athletes. We're still only at just below 16k, so it's a long way to halfway. This is Parishka, some of the club runners on Parishka, and there is Carlo Capalbo, the race director, the man behind RunCzech, the company that has developed running in the Czech Republic over the last 20 years to the point where it is a monstrous mass participation sport with races all over the Czech Republic. They actually have 1 or 2 races outside of the Czech Republic as well,
Napoli,
don't they?
in Italy, yeah. They have the half marathon in Napoli. But he's a lovely guy, isn't it? This morning he was still helping us with covering our windows, and now he's taking the pillars away.
Oh, he's hands-on, as you saw just then. Last night he took a load of us out to dinner, and there was actually an issue of wine, a bottled wine from Sardinia. There was a Sardinian restaurant he went to, of course, because there's a huge Italian community in Prague. It's a Sardinian restaurant, and the wine was flowing, let me tell you that. And we were talking about what a wonderful label it was in the bottle, and because it's dedicated to runners. And next thing you know, you've got a bottle being handed to you to take home for enjoyment.
Will it make home?
Later on. It'll make home, but it won't last long at home, I can tell you that.
Small breakaway in the man. It's the 3 pacemakers broke away from the group. In the back of the group there is pace M5. He's actually there to help people who dropped off, but apparently didn't wait for the guys that dropped off very early. He was supposed to form a second group for if people wanted that.
Just looking at that pace in the men's race, the front end of the men's race, Michel, as we see some of these citizen runners going through, it's fluctuating a lot. The 16th kilometre was a 3:05, then the 17th was a 2:58, and then the 18th kilometre a 3:04. And that's because the 18th and 19th kilometres, and actually the 20th, it's a section where there's quite a few twists and turns towards the south of the city. And then I think they'll settle down again between 20 and 25. We should see some good solid splits coming through there as they go through halfway and on into the second half. He brought the family with their horns, did he, Michel?
They're not mine.
I bet they're glad of a bit of shade. These runners, there's 55 minutes on the clock now, nearly 56 minutes. They've got another 2 hours and more of running ahead of them, these performers. But great to see them back, great to see them out on the city streets. And there is one of the para-athletes going very well too. Lovely rhythm.
Yeah.
This is special, isn't it? Talk about a race through history. Prague relatively undamaged by the Second World War, as I was saying. And there is the sweep vehicle, I think the sweep ambulance, the back of the field with an ambulance and police presence as well. That's good to see. And this lady moving along at her pace and enjoying her day. And I suspect scoring for one of the teams in the battle of the teams. In fact, just crossing the Charles Bridge.
Yes,
she must have been a late starter.
Yeah.
The Charles Bridge is at...
it's after a...
Crikey, is it about 3.5K?
Yeah.
Something like that.
In many marathons now, the last finisher gets such a pretty neat welcome. I mean, it's really like a party where there's a lot of audience, where the police is with sirens.
It's a race to the rear.
And I think there was in Rotterdam, there was like kind of a fight who was going to be the last one. Because you get received by the mayor and things. So it's... It started, I think, in Frankfurt. They had a special reception for the last finisher, and more marathons have adopted it.
There's many people who think you shouldn't encourage it, but it is because when you start actually getting a battle to run as slow as possible to be at the back, it sort of contradicts what being in a race is all about. But of course, for many of them, it's not a race, it's a challenge just to get round. 19 kilometres was a 3:02. So the last 3 kilometres, 2:58, 3:04, 3:02. We're now on schedule for something with a couple of kilometres until halfway for 2:06, just outside 2:06. Quick running for these conditions, there's no doubt about it. If you've joined us in the last half hour or so, it's a very warm day in the Czech capital, Prague. Expected to go up to 24 this afternoon, and I think the temperature out in the streets right now, as we see a train steaming away in the background, the temperature out in the streets probably more like 20, 21. Leading ladies still virtually in single file. It's quick for them. They were last clocking we got, they were on 2:19 tempo. Do you think that's realistic, Michel, in these conditions? Because if it's going to be such a warm day over this next hour and a half, you're talking about a minute or 2 minute maybe compromise. Yeah, so you're talking about a 2:16, 2:17 performance.
Yeah. We have girls that have run 2:20 already in 2019. Some just had changed to the carbon shoes. What we see actually the last 2 years in the women, that 2:20 is not... It doesn't impress them anymore. It doesn't intimidate them anymore. And if you want to qualify and go to the World Marathon Majors and run the big league races, you almost have to run a 2:19 to get invited. So, yeah, many of these running in Prague, they would love to go to a fall marathon in one of the World Marathon Majors.
Well, the lead men just approaching 20k. I think that top left-hand corner time and the distance shown is for the women. Now it clicks over to 20k for the men. So the men getting to 20k. We'll give you that official split very shortly. There is no, rather bizarrely, no timing mat at 20k, and there isn't a timing mat at 40k. I was talking to, sitting next to Alessandro, the man in charge of the timing here. He lives near Venice. He has about 800 events, mostly in Italy. And he said, no, we have no mats at 20k and no mats at 40k. I think quite often it's about resources. Those mats cost a lot of money. Every single timing mat spread out in a marathon course with the various elements of equipment and time relay that are required. It's not cheap. There's a specific price per mat. If I remember rightly, it's about $1,000, something like that, per mat. You know, and you've got to.
Well, you're in the organising business, Tim.
I know, but it's people are so used to them just being dotted around the course, and people take it very much for granted. 59.59 at 20k, we're being told. A 3:06 to get them to that point. I think that's the slowest kilometre yet.
But I think it's we see that happening, Tim. We see the pacemakers in front, people behind a bit reluctant following, gap of 10, 15 meters. Nobody willing to close that gap. They leave it up to Hattori to close that gap, but I think Hattori might not be so interested in time, but maybe it feels like he can win this one, although it looks like he takes his responsibility now.
Well, I was going to say this. These are pacemakers out in front. Hattori looking very, very calm. Let's not forget that Japan, for much of the year, is sweltering hot. I mean, I know they get cold winters, but it's sweltering hot in Japan. I've been there a few times over the years. Don't think I've ever been in Japan where it hasn't been horrifically hot and sticky. I mean, admittedly, it was Osaka 07 and Tokyo 91 and that sort of thing, the major summer championships, but it is unbelievably humid there.
Yeah, February, March, when most of the marathons are in the first part of the year in Japan, it's mostly cold. It's not nice.
Quite nice temperature for running, or actually cold?
Well, sometimes really cold, and sometimes quite nice to run. But well, yeah, we had some championships in Japan. That's hot when you're there in July, August.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
it's too much.
And actually, the marathons in the Olympics last summer were moved a few hundred kilometers north, supposedly to be a bit cooler, but it was still pretty hot there, I believe.
Still close to 30, no?
Ouch. Well, I tell you what, I reckon it's a day for caps for the masses. Hattori, there he is, left a picture. Michel, as you said, 2 different drinks bottles, and a little rope string holding them together around his neck.
Yeah, it's a good technique to keep your drinks together. Don't know if it's also practical because he has 2 different drinks. Most just with 1 bottle with some glucose in it. There's been a lot of development on those sports drinks as well the last years, from longer carbohydrate strings to transport system to be adopted in the stomach easier than it used to be, and you're being able to get more carbohydrates in the body.
Well, the men should be going through halfway about now. If they were 60 minutes, 59.59 at 20k, add 3 minutes and a bit to that, it's 63.30. So the men should have just gone through halfway. We'll try and bring you that split as soon as we can. But, yeah, they're heading due south through halfway, and it continues south for another kilometre or so now before they do a sharp U-turn on this road on the eastern bank of the Vltava. Do a sharp right-hand U-turn, head straight back up on the other side of the road that they're on right now. How many in this pack? 3 pacemakers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 behind them, I think, a pack of 9. But one of those is a pacemaker, M5.
Yeah.
And that is, just checking, that's Elkanah Kwambai, the 23-year-old. In fact, Kwambai, I was looking him up last night just to see his credentials. He doesn't actually have any good times, it would seem. Pretty average times for 5,000 and 10,000 on the track. But he's moving, going through halfway in about 63 minutes.
You see, when you go to Kenya and you go to the different hotspots.
Oh, that looks good. I'm going to go there this afternoon.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on. You were saying.
Yeah, when you go to different hotspots where athletes train, whether you go to E10, Cap Sabet, Cap Tagat, around Eldoret, there's many of those places where training groups are. You see groups of hundreds of people running, and when you organize a race, as you said, yeah, you're number 44 with 2:19 in the Eldoret Marathon. If you organize a half marathon and within 61 and 64, you have maybe 100 athletes. So, yeah, it's possible that one of these athletes is in the training group. Actually, there's a coach connected to an agent and said, hey, this guy, he has never run abroad, but he runs a 62 high half marathon Eldoret. That translates to 61 low in Europe. So that gives you the quality to do pacemaking. And actually, he was giving the task to maybe stay with Sainaus, maybe stay with Up0 earlier. And have a 2:6, 2:7 pace.
There's the half standings, 63.13 at halfway in the men's race. That is, well, as you mentioned, Michel, more commonly these days the elite athletes run negative splits, so 63.13. If they come back a little bit quicker than that, we may see a sub 2:6 clocking. It's a tall order on a warm day.
Yeah, the good thing is there's still 8 athletes with them that came to finish the race, and if you have 8 athletes together, there's always 2 or 3 that they're running on reserves. They still have something left. The only thing, have they something left at 35? Because that will decide it. And yeah, if they continue this pace, maybe somebody in the last 7K can pick it up and maybe bring it under the 2:6. But if we can run even pace under these conditions, I think it's already a very good performance.
There's that sharp right-hand turn. This is at just past 22K. It's about 22.2 kilometers. It's a nice, gentle curve. In fact, not a great deal of braking in the cadence to negotiate that with the tram lines down the middle of the road. And now they're heading back north, and they're a few hundred meters away from the 23-kilometer point. And I don't know if it applies to marathon running. When you get past halfway, you feel you're heading downhill. You've broken the back of it. I think the back gets broken at about 30K, but I always used to think in massive training sessions, if you're doing 2400s or something off a minute's recovery, once you're past halfway, we always in the group used to think, right, that's it, it's downhill from now on. We've killed off the majority of it. We're moving into the easier section, even though the efforts get harder. And I wonder if the same is the case in marathon running. You know, you're in the second half. Yes, you're going to be working harder, but actually you know that there's a rapidly reducing distance between you and the finish line. That's a healthy sized pack.
Yeah, it's still good if they can get to 30K with at least six of them. We'll have a nice race on our hands, and who knows who has something special left. Got very good stories also from Jeffrey Yegon, who's training in E10 with a training group with coach Julian Di Maria, who had some recent success in the women's marathon. He said, Yegon is in good shape.
Well, the lead women still moving well. Well, there are little gaps just beginning to appear. There's 4 of them, I think, there.
Yeah, 3 really together. Now it's the first time that Untitled Chapter is running in front of Risper Chabette. We saw most of the race Risper Chabette straight behind the pacemakers. Now it's the Ethiopian Untitled Chapter who's taking that duty. And still with them is also Asmara Hagos, who actually really was talking about 2:19 the whole time. Even when we told her about the weather, no, 2:19
wow.
Has to be 2:19.
Isn't that interesting? Because she knows full well that's the currency of getting into the big time, is joining that pack of women. It is a pack now. I can remember not many years ago, you know, there were half a dozen women who had broken 2:20. It was a very special thing. But now, how many women have broken 2:20 now? Dozens and dozens. In fact, just checking how many women have broken 2:20 now. I've got an all-time list here somewhere. I've printed it out, so I'm determined to use it. There you go. 50 women exactly have now broken 2:20. It's not common as muck, it's still special, but that's a big old pack, isn't it? When it used to be half a dozen, maybe 10. World record 2:14.04 by Brigitte Koska in Chicago 3 years ago. Paula Radcliffe still the second fastest in history.
I think there was some small incident at the water station, and Asmera Hagos has some work to do to close that gap again. Lost some meters while picking up her bottle.
Well, this is the main pack of citizen runners moving through at about, this is around 12.2 kilometers, 12.3 kilometers. They come through the Old Town Square. They won't be back here for a couple of hours and more, these runners. But nice to get that little boost of music and crowds and the glorious surroundings. About less than a third of the way through their journey.
You can still wave to the crowd. You're in good shape, no? Superman there with the S on his T-shirt.
Was that Superman?
No, he has an S on his T-shirt. He was still seeing people in the crowd and waving to them.
Was he wearing his underpants outside his tights?
Maybe.
It's a day for dark glasses and a white cap, not too much covering, white vest, actually, everything to deflect the heat.
Actually, we came here like 1.5 hours before the start of the race, and that announcement was made continuously. People, please, watch what you wear. Don't wear too much.
Drink little and often. Keep taking liquids on board. It'd be very hard to overhydrate in a day like this.
Yeah, you have a responsibility as an organizer to the people that you allow in your course as well.
So the team Volkswagen runner there.
Yeah, you see, we lost Asmera Hagos at the drinking station. She's now about 15 meters in the back, and she looked so comfortable a kilometer before that. And
she's the quickest in the field by about 2 minutes, isn't she? The 26-year-old Ethiopian. She's right at the back. You can see in the distance, white vest and red shorts. Made her debut back in Amsterdam 2018, ran a 2:23. She's now a 2:20 performer. That was in Amsterdam in 2019, the following year. And she's been really consistent. She was 6th in Tokyo last couple of years ago in 2:22. Bunch of fast times to her name, but yeah.
Yeah, she tried to go out very fast in Valencia 21 as well, and then had to pay a little and came back in like 2:24. That's also the danger, of course, once now you have that 2:20 and you want to go under it. But yeah, then if a race goes out in 2:17 as they did in Valencia, that's maybe a minute too quick.
Well, Hagos, you said wanted to run really fast today.
Yes.
She wants a really quick time. Planned to race in early April, but decided her form wasn't sufficient, so delayed it until today. I wonder if she's had 1 or 2 problems. So 69.56 at halfway. That is quick, Michel. Boy.
Yeah, and very good. They have been actually running the same pace from the first kilometer. That's perfect. And still 3 together. And the first 2, they looked the most comfortable. Risper Chabette and Begalec.
Well, Risper Chabette ran 2 half marathons last year. She was 4th in Milan, and then that was in the May, and then 7th in Vienna last September. But she's a prolific racer, has done many half marathons. She's ran 4 in 2014, 3 in 2015, 4 in 2018. So she really learnt her trade as a half marathon racer before moving to the marathon. And that's a fairly normal journey in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, we've seen several journeys towards the marathon. Some start with it, but the old-fashioned first few years on the cross country and the track, and then slowly towards the roads, towards a half marathon and then a marathon. That's a road very few take these days.
Yeah, it's sad actually. I would love to see more of the world's elite distance runners generically do cross country. It's a sport that is a wonderful sport in its own right, and I wish, you know,
it's the money who killed it, no? I mean, there's so much money to be made on the roads,
Yeah.
That you would be a fool to, well, a fool in
You're right.
sense. If you look at money, you would be a fool to prepare for this cross country and cross country, not making money and give up good opportunities on marathons and half marathons, because actually marathon has become a sport that's run from January till December. There's marathons every month.
It's all year round, yeah.
And half marathons, big half marathons, has also from early January already in Houston to Valencia in October and then November.
Well, and you've got the Southern Hemisphere. You can always pop down to Australia and find a marathon if you want, or South America. There's a huge road racing scene, isn't there, in South America?
Yeah,
and
so road racing actually has pulled so much talent from the track and also from cross country.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
We're losing somebody there.
I love the way the lead motorbike is giving signals to indicate to the runners, I think, rather than just showing good road etiquette themselves, indicate to the runners where the course is going to go. They've gone up past 23k, 24k, 25k. They've reached in 1:14.57. That was exactly a 3-minute split, and the projected time is 2:06.30. So 25k of the 42 behind them, 2:06.30 is the projected time. And on a very warm day in Prague, that is fabulous running. Things are looking good at the moment. The wheels can come off. It can all go wrong in a very short space of time in marathon running. But at the moment, in both men's and women's races, remember the women have gone through halfway in under 70 minutes. The prospects are looking strong for some very fast times in the Czech capital.
We've lost one athlete. I wonder if that's Norbert Keegan.
Well, they've taken a left over the river, over the Vltava, and then they take a right and run a few hundred meters and then go right again back over the river. It really does zigzag around through this third quarter of the race.
I think Keegan is still there. He's running with Birel team, number 1. But we've lost one athlete there in the back. He's about 50 meters from the leading group now.
He's a tiny figure, isn't he, that pacemaker, Ronald Correa, in the all black. Hattori is still there for Japan. To the left of picture is Norbert Keegan, isn't it?
Yeah, Norbert Keegan is still there.
Norbert Keegan is still there. I think Kelkile Walderegai is still there for the Team Generali. And that's the Volkswagen runner. That's Worknesh Zabessa.
He looks good.
Yeah, well, he's 33 years old, Michel. He ran 2:07 in Geneva last year. Made his debut back in 2014. He's only done 5 marathons, even though he's 33, so he's a relatively late starter.
We're losing Risper Chabette. She looked good like 2 kilometers ago. Either they have increased the pace or Risper Chabette is falling apart already.
Well, just looking at the leading women, Risper Chabette was the leading woman through halfway. She was fine at 21.1k. Went through in 69.56 along with Borecha Bekelec, Sintayehu Halamichael, and Asmira Hegos, and Berho Gide. So they were, well, she was a little way down actually, Gide.
Yeah, but we're now left with Sintayehu and Borecha, because Risper Chabette cannot follow this pace anymore. She looked so comfortable.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? Marathon running's one of those, well, you know better than me, it's one of the sports where you can look fine 1 minute, and the next minute it all goes wrong. And
looked like $1 million worth nothing.
Yeah, from $1 million to being a pauper. Listen to Yeho Michael.
It's going quick.
Moving well at the moment. She's in her 9th marathon. Didn't finish Abu Dhabi back in November, but was 6th in Milan last year in 2:24. Speaking of cross country, she was 14th in the world cross country a few years back in 2017. So she has got some flexibility from one branch of the sport to another. 2:22 performer in Frankfurt, her personal best 4 years ago.
Yeah, my system of splits has given up.
There she is, Sintiyehu Hyla Michael at the back of the group now. Is she hanging on or is she just tucking in? Pacemaker still doing a good job. And Yesial Zerahun. No, in fact, that's Bekelec Borecha, isn't it?
Yes.
With the number 4 and that orange number. Borecha, 2:24 performer. Produced that in Barcelona last year when she was 4th. She's only in her 4th marathon. Made her debut in Toronto back in 2019. She ran a 2:27. That's a really solid start, but she's an established half marathon runner. Talked about how some athletes learn their trade at half marathon before moving up. She's run 18 half marathons, a couple of 66 clockings, 3:67 clockings. She's a really solid half marathon performer. And is that breaking up of the groups?
It's the pacemakers again gone. And
is that the pacemakers for the men? Top
yeah,
of
the
picture?
pacemakers for the men. Well, they have. Yeah, it's the pacemakers only.
Do they need to have a little glance round and regain contact?
And they probably look to Hattori again to close that gap.
74.56 at 25k. And just checking what has brought them to that point, the men. Well, a 3-minute sprint that took them to 25k. That was actually a few minutes ago now. They've gone through 26k and 27k with 3:01 and 3:02 clockings. So, Michelle, the splits at the moment are holding up really well. Now, you know, we talked earlier about whether maybe or not, actually in a marathon, 30k is the halfway point. So it's okay. It's not easy, but it's more feasible to look okay to 30k, and that's when the questions really start being asked.
Yeah, I think that especially with these conditions, we'll see. But we see now Norbert Keegan closing the gap, so he wants to go and continue with this pace. The others are a bit reluctant. Meanwhile, we're losing somebody every kilometer now. So, question really is how many people will be together at 30k. You see Keegan really eager behind the pacemakers. Then Hattori Koske is there.
Yeah, Keegan behind the 3 pacemakers there is running for Team Burrell, the 29-year-old. 2:05 his best in Amsterdam, albeit 5 years ago. It's his 10th marathon. He does have a bit of a checkered past. He dropped out of Boston back in 2018, although that was the day when it was freezing cold and wet.
And then didn't drop out.
He dropped out of Tokyo 2019.
Yeah, he's also suffered with some injuries. So 2019, 2020 was injury prone, and
is that Jeffrey Yegon?
Yeah. Yes, Jeffrey Yegon falling off the
back
group
there
now
for Team Generali. Now his personal best is only 2:12. So he has been running way beyond what his previous form would suggest he's capable of.
Yeah, but he ran marathons and then he went back to run half marathons for a couple of times. But he's now really in a good training environment in E10 and trains with other marathoners. Many of them running 2:7. So probably strongest in the group at that point, according to the coach.
But he's had a lot of injuries the last couple of years.
No, that was Keegan.
Yeah,
I was talking about.
Oh, sorry.
Keegan.
Yeah.
Keegan, 1920 was a lot of injuries. So he was 3rd last year here in the BOT, which was a tactical race. But he hasn't run like competitive marathons really on the new technology shoes, because he runs for Adidas. Adidas came up with that shoe about the end of 2020. So he didn't really get the opportunity yet. So yeah, his 2:05 time was a long time, like 5 years ago. But the years in between haven't been really gone well for him. Now really found a new group to train in. Also trains in E10. It probably feels good. Otherwise you don't close that gap and sit dominate the pace behind the pacemakers.
That U-turn they've just negotiated, by the way, is at 28k. It's on the western bank of the Vltava River, not far from where they made the U-turn at 22k, but this was a left-hand U-turn, and now they're running back north again with the river on their right, the elite men, so they're only a 5 minutes or so away from the 30k point. Still looking really strong is Bekelec Borecha. There she is.
And she's alone. Because
she actually, I saw her run a couple of months ago in Istanbul. It was actually towards the end, it was only about 6 weeks ago. She was third in the Istanbul half marathon, 66.35. And Michel, that suggests she's in very, very good shape, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Once you're down there below sub 67 territory, that is quick running. And wonderful preparation for a full marathon.
yeah, if you do, especially if you do it from your marathon preparation. Of course, if you prepare for a half marathon and you train maybe more like a 10k runner, it's hard to get that towards a marathon. But if you can run such a fast half marathon while in marathon preparation, yeah, that's.
Well, we're talking about marathon preparation. Now, she'd have been easing off for the last couple of weeks. She was sixth last week in Herzogenaurach in Germany, the Adidas headquarters, over 10k. She ran 31:10 just last week. So
Sponsor require that.
well, yeah, but actually, you know,
actually some coaches like that.
If you're easing off for 10 days out, a couple of weeks out over a marathon, maybe a good hard hit out at 10k with a week to go is not. It's not going to drain your resources too much. No. She won't have done much this last week, will she?
Most athletes wouldn't prefer that, though.
No. It's interesting, isn't it, the way that the world of marathon running has become very specific. So up to about 20 years ago, everybody would do a half marathon about 5 or 6 weeks, four to 6 weeks before. And then people realized, well, actually, to run that half marathon, athletes tend to focus too much on the half marathon, ease off and prepare for it. So now the half marathon tends to be 8 weeks or 10 weeks before the marathon.
Or not at all.
Or not at all. No, you're right. A lot of people don't do them at all. But look how many athletes will go and do the RAC half marathon in February, let's say, and then come out and do London or Boston or Paris in the April.
But what you have seen is that also half marathon has become a specialism in itself. There's people that keep on running halves, don't advance to the marathon. And yeah, if you're real, I mean, we don't even see Eliud Kipchoge or running a lot of half marathons these days.
Very few.
And it's yeah, if he comes out there 4-6 weeks before, he's meeting all these fast people that want to run 58, and actually he just wants to have a comfortable half. This Risper Chabette.
Risper Chabette, this is going to be a tough last few kilometres for Chabette, or second half, I should say, because she's on her own. There's not quite the fluency there, is that you can hear her feet hitting the road pretty hard. She's lost that up on her toes and the power and the fluidity.
Her posture is still not bad, but it's can you still load those shoes? That's you know there's a plate in it that you have to load to get back what you want.
To get the return.
To get the return that form.
When you say to load, can you explain that?
Well, of course, you see, the shoe doesn't drive itself. You need to. You have to give it energy. You know, it's. We talk about energy return, but you can only get energy back that you put into it. And of course, every step you don't get 100% back. Otherwise, it would be easy. You take off once. So if you don't load that shoe every step, or you load it with less energy every step, it's you're not speeding up. And yeah, it's these shoes have a huge advantage in conserving energy, but at one point you have to work on it as well.
Well, the men are approaching 30k. They've gone through 29k in 1:27:03. That was a 2:59 clocking. So the last few kilometres have gone 3 minutes per kilometre to get them to 25k. Then a 3:01, a 3:02, a 3:04, a 2:59.
And but there's only one follower. It's only Keegan.
Yeah, and that gap is growing.
Yeah, they're behind. They look at each other like, "Hey, are we going there? And who's bringing us there?" They asked Hattori twice to do the job. Hattori now settles down and says, "No, it's up to you guys."
Well, Norbert Keegan knows the city. He set his half marathon personal best here back in 2016. He ran 59:42. And then he was 6th here later on in the year in the the Prague Full Marathon of 2016. He ran 2:10:29. And then he was, as you mentioned earlier, Michel, 3rd here in the Battle of the Teams last year. So he has a good feeling about this city. He's performed here well again and again. And that will be playing on his mind. There he is, tucked in behind these 2 pacemakers and gradually being dragged clear of this pack. And in that pack, well, it includes Edwin Kosgei, who is the 5 in the blue of Volkswagen. It includes Yuma Hattori of Japan in the cap. He's still having a good solid run.
Yeah, we saw Elgana Kwamba. Actually, he was the pacemaker in the back. He was kind of a reserve pacemaker to see if he could serve some other people that wanted to go a bit slower. He's now taking his duties up and he steps off. Thought he still looked comfortable. He was just smiling at Davor Savidia, who's on the motorbike. But 30K is enough.
30K in 1:30.02, so 2:59 to 30K, and that is a projected finishing time of 2:06.38. So it's gradually coming down, it's gradually slowing that projected finishing time. Now, if we see good racing through this last 10K, 12K, Michel, maybe yet we'll see it dip under 2:06. But, you know, over the last couple of days, I think the organisers have been well aware that today was going to be a warm day. It's not what they wanted. They want quick times here in Prague. They're very ambitious like that. But these conditions, a really warm Sunday morning in the Czech capital, have got to be worth a couple of minutes maybe. Keegan leads the best of them at the moment, dragged along by the pacemakers. He knows the city so well and taking full advantage of it here. And actually, if you can have a pacemaker drag you clear, Michel, like that, and that pack behind don't have a pacemaker, they're kind of watching each other, beginning to feel the tempo. They're 50 metres back now. He could really take advantage of this next couple of kilometres and build a big gap.
I think he should. He's getting some free space here. He's not pushing harder, actually, than the pace we had before. And behind they're a bit reluctant. They're a bit running on reserve, maybe. Don't want to work for each other.
So 30K, they're heading north now on the west bank, and they will continue up to, they cross the river at 31K. There's the masses at yet another crossing of the river. Bekelec Borecha looks to have eased herself away, and she's gone through 25K in 1:22.56. And look at the gap behind her, over 2 minutes. She has really stuck with the pacemaker, kept focused, worked at the task, and that gap has just gradually eased open behind her. Big gap now.
Yeah, and 1:22.56 is exactly 2:20 pace.
If this pacemaker goes with it the whole way, Michel, and that's Nason Cheriot, wearing W1, checking his watch, thinking on his feet. That's good to see. If he can drag her the whole way, he might yet enable her to dip under 2:20. And Bekelec Borecha, her best is 2:24.51. She could be heading for a 5-minute PB.
She ran it in Barcelona Marathon, which is not the easiest of marathons. There's always some. You know Barcelona, it's not flat.
Well, I know Montjuic, the big hill where the Olympic Stadium is, but is the rest of the city?
Well, it's not all
undulating.
It's not pancake flat like you would find in Amsterdam or Rotterdam. You know, I'm from the Netherlands. Everything is flat with us. We always.
Oh, really?
We think everything is a hill.
How do you do hill work in the Netherlands? Oh. Actually, there are some hills, aren't there? Is it to the east of the country? It's not completely flat.
It's you can find some hills, but don't think you can run uphill for a long time.
That is becoming a really significant gap now in the men's race. 31 kilometers on the clock, and the pack of 5 chasing the pacemaker with the breakaway individual, Norbert Keegan, who has gone with the pace and through 30K with a 2:59, 1:30.02. He has established a decent gap between himself and the rest. He's stuck doggedly, almost clinging to the coattails of that pacemaker. And a 2:59 to 31k, still projects a time of around 2:06.5 for the winning time. But importantly, his tempo has been metronomic the last 3 kilometres. 2:59, 2:59, 2:59. And I think in the women's race too, Michel, an equivalent job, great job is being done by the pacemakers.
Absolutely. The pacemaker for the women has been spot on from the first kilometre. In the man, we saw some changes, but it was not really the pacemakers. It was also guys sometimes reluctant to follow. But now Keegan, I think he has switched on the batteries, and he's heading for home, not waiting for the man behind him. And here they're a little bit indecisive.
And Hattori, is that Hattori dropping away there?
Yeah.
Left a picture. 1 hour 35 on the clock. And they have actually gone through 30k and 31k now, the leaders in the men's race. So that distance marked at the top left of the screen is
the women's.
For the women's, even though we're seeing the lead men. But at 31k, it looks like Hattori maybe is having to give ground to the men around him. That foreshortening effect is quite deceptive. What is the difference in splits at 30k?
It's interesting. You don't see that often, that a man breaks away around 20, 28, 29k, and then there's a group of 5 staying behind him. Nobody really tried to go with him. It's almost like he sneaked away, and now they wake up and said, hey, somebody's gone.
Well, the gap at 30k was 10 seconds exactly. Norbert Keegan went through in 1:30.01. The chasing group, including Hattori, the Japanese, 1:30.11. So 10 seconds back there. But I think it's more now. I think it's grown quite markedly. It's probably something more in the region of 20 seconds, I would say. Over this last couple of kilometres, it's grown a lot. Yeah, that's a big gap.
Yeah, he had a 3-minute kilometre from 31 to 32. That means they're behind. They're running maybe like a 3:05 pace at the moment.
3:05 per kilometre, yeah. 31k, he ran a 2:59, then a 3 minutes to 32k. So he has been relentless in his sticking to that sort of tempo with the pacemaker.
Yeah, and Hattori really has to let go now of the other 4. It was a tough last 10 kilometers for our Japanese friend. It's really losing.
He's let go really quickly, hasn't
he? Yes. Has some bad patch at the moment. Oh, he's losing a lot.
Yeah, it's almost like somebody's pulled the plug, let the air out. 33k. This is where they zigzag around a bit, but then move on to the north bank, and from 34 through to 38k, they move along the north bank, moving northeastwards, and then they cross the river, and it's the long run-in along the south bank through 41, 42k, and into the Old Town Square. But here is the race leader with what has ended up being his personal pacemaker being dragged further and further clear. And he looks full of running, Michel. The left of those two characters, he looks great. And
even the pacemaker still looks like he wants to go. As you said earlier, he's a 2:07 marathoner, so he knows this territory. He knows what happens after 33k, and he's still helping Norbert Keegan, although it looks like now Keegan is helping him more than...
Well, unfortunately, the team points scores are not really being updated, it would seem, at the moment. 5,082 for every team.
Oh, that's how we started.
I know. It's, I think it's called... is it democracy? Fairness? Equalness? Or is it communism? I'm not sure.
would be quite a coincidence if this was still the score.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
and
we will update those.
It's impossible because everybody slowed down after the first 10k, so it should be less points.
And I suppose, actually, it matters less because we know that because the citizen runners at the back of the field will become the 5th scorer for each team, we know for a fact that the final scores are not going to come in until about 7 or 8 o'clock tonight, and they're going to be announced at the big post-race party tonight. So the battle of the teams during the race, as we're watching now, the elite race, is of limited relevance when we know that there's more scores to be added long after we go off air. So 32K was reached with a 3-minute split. That was 1:36.01. And that was, we're waiting for the 33-kilometer split to come through now. 30K, 1:30.01. Yes, we have that.
308 kilometer was that 1:39.09.
But 1:30.01 at 30K is equivalent to exactly 2:06.35 if you like your minutes and seconds and tenths of seconds. Well, there's a little aerial display going on above the city centre. I wasn't given any warning of this, but it's rather delightful. The Great North Run, the biggest half marathon in Europe every September in the northeast of England. The Red Arrows, an aerial display team, do this. They fly over the city with different colours being projected from the smoke on each wing. And it looks like it's similar here in the national colours. Blue, white and red.
Yeah, exactly.
Not exactly a
Could
rare
also be the
national
Dutch
colour
army. Could also be the
mix,
Dutch
is
army
it?
then.
Huh?
Could also be the Dutch army then.
The Dutch?
Red, white and blue, yeah.
I thought you guys were orange from head to toe.
Well, not our flag though.
So what's all the orange about? Where did that come from? William of Orange?
Yeah, from the name of the royal family, yeah. Orange.
Okay, but you can't grow oranges in Netherlands. So
no, we get them
come on,
from
give
Valencia.
us a 10-second condensed history lesson of the Orange Association for the Dutch.
Well, I didn't pay a lot of attention during history class.
Didn't do your history classes.
No.
That's rather special, isn't it? Good to see. Celebrating the opening up of the roads of Prague. And here you have that leader in the women's race. And Michelle, big gap behind her. What's the gap behind her now?
Well, my system stopped, so I don't know if you still have splits for women.
I do. She went through 30K in 1:39.45. So that was a couple of minutes ago.
1:39.45.
1:39.45. And
yeah,
this
she's
second
just above.
place.
She's just above 220. She lost just about 15 seconds on that 220 flat pace. She's still on her way to a huge personal best, and she's all alone with the pacemaker now. Also, national runner.
Is that the pacemaker gone?
No, the pacemaker's still here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was a bit quicker in picking the bottle.
But she's having to work now. She's still bouncing well, mind you. She's moving well, isn't she?
Still committed to it.
I mean, real contrast to her form and that of Risper Chabette we saw a few minutes ago.
Yeah. The moment you start feeling sorry for yourself is where it goes downhill.
And as for Norbert Keegan, well, he's looking fantastic at the moment. So, breakaway leader in each race here in Prague. In the women's race, looking quite supreme at the moment is Kamethel of Ethiopia, the 24-year-old running for Team Chez. Could be heading for a 4 or 5 minute personal best here from her run in Barcelona last year. And in the men's race, Norbert Keegan, well, he's a 2:05 performer, 2:05.13 actually from Amsterdam 5 years ago. It's unlikely he will break that personal best. But in these very warm conditions in Prague, he has broken away from a pack of 4 and at the moment looks to be heading for a comfortable victory and in a quick time, probably under 2:07. Little undulation here, that's a tough little climb, but he's maintaining his tempo very well.
Yeah, he's still bouncing and really making those strides. Even the pacemaker looks good. Might be up for a finish.
Well, I was going to say, he's a 2:07 performer, Ronald Correa, the 31-year-old little pacemaker there in black. Very slight figure, isn't he? He was 6th in Frankfurt back in 2014 in 2:07. So here we are, 8 years later. He might be heading for a personal best. And they are allowed to finish the pacemakers here. Some races insist they drop out.
Yeah, you can insist they drop out, but of course they're on the official start list. So
now this is one of those situations which I do talk about in commentaries occasionally, Michel, whereby Norbert Keegan here has got a pacemaker, and being helped along in effect, and the chasing pack do not have a pacemaker. What do you read that situation as fair, or do you think it's acceptable?
But that's why some organizers say, hey, by 30K, like in London, they say by 30K, pacemakers should go, then we want to have a race.
Yeah.
Which is a clear
Which
policy.
is my belief.
Yeah,
which
and in some races, like London, Boston, they don't believe in pacemakers at all. They just said, even if the race is 1 in 2...
Boston, New York don't have pacemakers.
Yeah, even if the race is 1 in 2:14, we don't care. We want a race from the start. So there's different approaches to it. But on the other hand, if a pacemaker feels comfortable, and actually they have, here in Prague, they have a bonus schedule. If they can pace up to 35K, they get paid for it if they do a proper job. So it's interesting to see if Correa will drop out at 35 or heads to the finish line. In the end, they're official participants. They're not...
We don't have a number for this gentleman. A name for this gentleman, 116. Apologies for that. I have a strong suspicion he's the leading Czech runner at the moment, and not classic form, but he's covering the ground well enough. Isolated, having to make his own effort. No pacemaker for him. And is that the chasing men's group down to 3?
Yeah.
I think it is.
We still have the 2 Ethiopians, and it looks like Koskei.
And they have gone through 35K now in 1:45.10. And that was a 3:02 for the leader, Norbert Keegan. And his projected winning time is gradually slowing. It's 2:06.48 now. It's beginning to slow towards 2:07 territory. It doesn't matter. I think once we knew this was going to be a very warm morning in Prague, it was kind of reduced the significance of the quick time target, and it's just been a great race that Keegan is very much in control of.
Yeah, it looks like Correa still feels okay. It's not doing pacing duties anymore. We can't call it that, but they're racing each other. And coming to, okay, maybe he gets help. There's a pacemaker. On the other hand, there's still 3 guys there. They can also work together and try to chase here.
Well, that's an interesting point you make, because it helps having somebody beside you, and it's even more helpful if they're slightly in front of you. But as Keegan now to the left of picture there, wearing number 1, has he got to actually adjust his mindset and say, well, I thought I'd got this race kind of won because this guy's a pacemaker, and I know he's a pacemaker, but actually now he's an opponent. So at some point, to the right of picture, the pacemaker, Ronald Correa, has suddenly changed status. He's instead of being somebody there to help me, he's somebody there for me to battle against.
And that's there's your point valid. Like, okay, for a pacemaker, there's no pressure now. Even if it still drops out, he said, well, I did a good job. Like Keegan.
Except once you pass 35K, you're sort of into that territory, that zone where you're damaging your legs. You know, it's not a training run. It becomes something that really does take a lot out of you.
That's true. So, but. We can actually say road race season is over after this weekend. We're moving to the track. We have the first Diamond League next week, and so an athlete running now can say, hey, I can try and reach as far as I think I can get. There's some rest anyway this month.
Fefar is a local runner, I think. We don't have him down on our lists either, but he is moving well. And if we could, we would tell you about his progress. 36 kilometers, 1:48 for the leading men. And the tempo for the leader has remained splits of... Oh, it's Ondřej Fefar of the Czech Republic making his debut. He's a 67-minute half marathon runner. Mind you, that half marathon best goes back to 2015, 7 years ago in Pardubice. And 67 minutes. What did they say, Michel? You double your half marathon time and add 9, isn't it? Something like that. So 2:14.
9 is a lot.
2:23. Is it too much?
Yeah, I think that's too much.
Okay. What do you reckon? No,
he should be able to run under 2:20. We're losing Koskei here. So we have Keegan in the front together with Correa, and then the 2 Ethiopians, Walter Regai and Yitial Sirihun. They're chasing Keegan together with his mate, pacemaker, or former pacemaker, should we say, Ronald Correa.
Yes.
They're in the lead. So we have two Kenyans, 2 Ethiopians, and then Kenyan.
Battling for 3 places on the rostrum. Aha.
Aha. Keegan left, Correa. But Correa went for a bottle. Keegan didn't pick a bottle.
But there's something you feel sort of more correct and right about this.
But
So
he
was
calls him
Keegan there
back.
gesturing for the pacemaker to come back and help me, come back and race me. This is too much like hard work. 1:49 on the clock. We think he's heading for around 2:06, 2:07. So he's still got, what, some 17 minutes of hard running ahead, and he's sweating up profusely now. There's not a lot of breeze out there. It's been a relatively windless day on the streets of Prague. I think a little bit of breeze would have been welcome.
Yeah, well, it's good he's still sweating, though, because once you stop sweating, the engine is soon to stop. So it's good. As long as you sweat, the
But you
machinery
need to be taking
is
the
still
liquids in as well,
yeah,
don't
of course you. But if you stop sweating, you didn't take enough liquid. So that's when you get these salty lines on the head. And we know the brakes will be pulled quickly by the body itself.
Yeah. Well, he's still bouncing well.
Oh, he's running beautiful, no?
I'm not sure the stride length is enormous. I'd love to see a side-on shot. But he's moving well enough to have pulled clear of Ronald Correa, the 2:07 performer who is just dropped.
Homolac. He's the leading Czech, Yuri Homolac.
Yeah, Yuri Homolac.
He's been the leading figure in the last few years for Czech running, male running.
He's incredibly experienced. Homolac making it to the right of picture there, making his 18th marathon start today, and it's his 9th appearance in the Prague Marathon. He's gone under 2:20 9 times, the man from Brno, which is 200 kilometers southeast of Prague, but he comes up here to the capital on a regular basis to contest this marathon, does the 32-year-old. Yuri Homolac, of course, his run is important for his team, Team Chez. There's that gap, and that is growing really quickly. That's, what, 60 meters now, 50 meters probably, between Norbert Keegan and Ronald Correa.
Yeah, I would say the light poles are 50 meters from each other, so it's just less than 50.
37K done. 1:51.25, a 3:09 to that point, so they have been slowing indeed. The last 3 kilometers, 3:02 got them to 35K, then a 3:06 and a 3:09. I think that's the slowest kilometer of the race, so they're really just surviving now, Michel. This is tough.
Yeah, it's hard, and yeah.
That
but
chasing
if
pack,
Keegan
another
is,
mile back, are they?
Yeah. If Keegan is slowing and those Ethiopians can find each other in working together, maybe they can make a small jump in the last 5 kilometers. They're not beaten yet.
Just trying to see who that was back in
Cosplay.
3rd place.
Oh, you mean
In 3rd place,
Oh.
leading that chasing pack.
that is Sirion,
Zerihun
ETL
for the
Sirion.
Generali team.
Yeah.
Was 8th here last year. He's having a better run today. Only ran 2:11.58 last year. Looks like he's heading for a clocking well under 2:10. He is a 2:06 performer. That was in Dubai a couple of years ago. Dubai 2020. And they're at in the 38th kilometre. They're crossing the river now. The Vltava will take a right-hand turn shortly and then head back down past their hotel, the hotel we've all been staying in the last few days, back to Parishka Street, Paris Street, appropriately named with all the designer outlets along it, to designer stores, and then a few hundred meters run in to the Old Town Square. Has he picked it up a bit?
Well, he still looks good to me. So I'm surprised it was really a 3:09 kilometers, because normally when they go to 3:10 and slower, you see drop in form. But the arms still swing the same. Legs still come up as high as before. Still looks good from the side. Still looks like there's energy in Keegan.
Well, I'll be intrigued to see the split for this 38th kilometre as we see Bekelecha, Borecha.
It's hurting. She's hurting.
She is, but she's She knows she's got the race in the bag, and that must be a huge reinforcing factor, Michel. When you're hurting, but you know you've just got to hang on for the win.
But she has dropped a lot of pace. She's not in 220 territories anymore. It's going to 221. Yeah, I don't think she has to worry about the win, unless she really falls apart.
Well, so 1:54 on the clock. She's going to run just outside 2:20, so she's still got 25 minutes or more of running to come, probably. It's a long way to hang on when you're in a lot of pain.
But the face is training now. It's not that relaxed face that we saw in the first half of the race. But she's really fighting for it. Stays to hang on the pacemaker.
And she's beaten a strong field here today, or at least it looks like she's going to beat a strong field here today, barring disaster. And what did we say? Her best is 2:24. She could still be heading for a 2 or 3 minute personal best. It's been a fabulous run in difficult conditions.
But you see, every time there is a meter or two that she had to let go, and then she has to fight her way back to the pacemaker. Pacemaker, better ask her if she should reduce the pace a little bit, or because for her working her way back to his back might kill her in the end. Keegan doing a good job for his team and of course for himself. $12,500 for first prize today.
You know, people say, well, you know, you take that money back to Kenya and it's worth several times what it'll buy you in Europe. Is that still very much the case? What's
Depends where you spend it on.
Spend it sensibly. But yeah, I mean, is it worth 2 or 3 times or more what you'd pay in Europe?
Life has become expensive in Kenya as well, and also
speaking.
in Eldoret. But of course, when they invest it in their rural area, they can still make very good returns. A lot of athletes these days invest in small rentals. They build these small apartments, studios, self-contained, and rent it out to students or rent it out to small families, and gives a good return to them. Yeah, and they can make nice things. But land has become so expensive in Kenya these days. Because growing population and the land is scarce.
Well, and everybody, as I understand it from conversations over the last couple of days, nearly everybody in the rural districts wants to move to the cities where they believe there's employment, there's jobs, there's more going on.
Yeah, in Kenya there's also small-scale farming. So as if you they all come from subsistence farming, where they have a few acres of land that could sustain the family and pay for the things they had to pay. If you divide it among your sons and daughters, there's not a lot left.
Well, that's what Emmanuel Sainer was saying a couple of days ago. He was saying, look, you know, I'm one of 8 kids.
Yeah.
When you say, well, my father has to divide up the land plot between eight boys, then all of a sudden we get nothing each virtually. So that is just that's not viable. So you have to go off and do something else.
Yeah, you have to do something else, and so that's why universities are really crowded at the moment, because people believe that education can give them a job. But there's a lot of people without jobs in Kenya, and a lot of hustling going around. A lot of people. I see a lot of people now baking cakes at home and trying to sell them for birthday parties and weddings, and all these kind of small enterprises are coming up for people to make a living. So modern life is kicking in Kenya, where they maybe 20 years ago were not celebrating birthdays at all, but now it's giving jobs for people.
Norbert Keegan then leading this men's race. He's gone through 39k now in 1:57.35. He has slowed a little bit over the last 4 or 5 kilometers. Since 35k, he's gone 3:06, 3:09, 3:05, 3:06 his kilometer split. So he is slowing a tiny bit, but staying well clear of that pack in the background. He's keeping that gap there essentially, and actually it's the pacemaker, Ronald Correa, in second place there in the all-black strip, who's gradually been closed down by the two men chasing him. Is that Yeteyal Zerihun, and who's the other one? There with him, it's another of the Kenyans, isn't it?
No, it's the Ethiopian Kelkile Wolderegai.
So
he's
Ethiopians in third and fourth.
Yes, third and fourth. But I think they'll pick up Correa on the way. Keegan has to hold it together though to stay in those 2.7 lows.
Well, 39K sees him on a long straight section, and then through 40K, very much the same, alongside the Vltava with the river on his right, straight past the hotel that he's staying in. Real temptation to take a quick left and have a cold shower, but that's at about 40K. And then, of course, he's got that 2.2K to go. So what, a mile and a half to go from the hotel to the finish line?
Yeah, actually, they passed there like 2-3 times, no? To the hotel, so...
A couple of times, yeah.
I suspect some
but
will...
the later in the race it comes, the more tempting it must be.
Yeah, that's in Rotterdam. They changed the course at one point, not passing the hotel at 28K because some decided to drop off and start a marathon 2 weeks later.
Well, of course, at the London Marathon, the athletes' hotel for many years was right at halfway.
And you passed the entrance.
Yes, you passed the... Well, he literally ran past the front door until they changed the course. But, you know, it was the big hotel right beside Tower Bridge is where athletes passed halfway. And many athletes would go, nah, it's not a good day at the office. And they disappear. And there actually was a desk inside the lobby where they had to go and register if they had dropped out so that at least people knew they had dropped out and not just disappeared into their rooms for a cold shower and a sleep. Danube House for rent, there you go. But it's the Vltava here in Prague, not the Danube, which many people think it is. And 39K, 1:57.35, the projected winning time with 3 kilometers to go, 2:07.13. So it has, over the last 3K, just slipped outside 2:07. It's still supreme running on this very warm day. Worth a couple of minutes, Michel?
Yeah, if you go over 20, well, we'll see. We passed 63.13, and was good pace. Was not crazy pace for the quality of this field. I would say, yeah, maybe 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes that you lose because of the temperature.
Well, he's got a 40K and his split 2:00.47, and the split was 3:12. That is the slowest split of the race so far. He has been suffering. There's no doubt about it, but. There's a little bit more of a bounce there, perhaps, in that stride now, because surely with a couple of kilometers to go, psychologically, you can sense the finish. You can sense that the pain will end very soon. And what, about 6 minutes of running to come for Norbert Keegan, who has handled himself on this 26th edition of the Volkswagen Prague Marathon quite superbly. He's played the patient game and just let it whittle down and then used the pacemaker to be dragged clear of the pack. And Borrecha here, she likewise, Michel, has used the pacemaker well.
Yeah, she has worked her way back to him a couple of times now. Hope she can hold it together in the... She still has to go like 5.4 kilometers.
Well, at 30K, she only had a lead of some, what, about 24 seconds over Sintieju Haile-Michael. But I think that gap has grown. We'll give you their 35K split as soon as we can. But back to this leader. And Norbert Keegan running for Team Birel. He's going to be a couple of minutes outside his lifetime best from 5 years ago. But in his 10th marathon, he is a man who has got a very, very strong CV at half marathon, setting his personal best for the half marathon here in 2016, 59.42. And when you're a member of that sub 60-minute club for the half marathon, you've got that, I suppose psychologically, you can go through in 62, 63 minutes in a marathon and know you've got quite a cushion.
Yeah, Correa gets eaten in the tunnel by Siriun. So Siriun, I think, is now in second, and Siriun has left Kilkile Woldegerai behind him. So that's I think we'll see when they get out of the tunnel, with Keegan still comfortably leading. Siriun on the way chasing, but probably coming too late.
Well, he's a few seconds away from the 41-kilometer point, and then he will be just a few hundred meters away from the left-hand turn onto Parishka Street, the Paris Street, which has a long straight, what, about 400 metres, 500 metres straight down to the Old Town Square and the finish line here, which is literally about 20 feet from our commentary box. I want to say our commentary box sauna, but it's...
I've been in better saunas, though.
I bet you have. I don't frequent them myself, Michel, but you're Dutch, so that's okay.
Oh, you think it's a Dutch thing?
I don't know. Well, it's a coincidence. It is like a sauna in here, I can tell you.
Well, it's still the two Ethiopians together, but now in second and third, and Correa is done. Pacemaker really paying the price in those final kilometers. Lost 3 positions in the last 500 meters. He's now in sixth position.
Sixth?
No, fifth.
So yeah. Who's gone past him? Wolde Regai, Kelkile Wolde Regai, and Yeti Al-Zarehun.
Yeah, they're in second and third. They're still together. And then I think it's Koskei who just overtook Correa. So Correa tried, gambled to finish, but won't be podium for him. But did a good job in pacing. We have to give him that. Well,
Norbert Keegan heading for a fabulous timer. He's gone through 41k now in 2:04.04. That was a 3:16. He is surviving here rather than pounding hard along the streets of Prague. He is literally just surviving these last few kilometers. He's gone 3:05, 3:06, 3:12, 3:16. The temperature is climbing all the time. We have to remember that. It's gone 11 o'clock in the morning now in Prague, coming towards the hottest part of the day, and it was predicted to be 24 degrees this afternoon, so I suspect it's 22 degrees, something like that, out on those cobbled streets. It's certainly a lot warmer than that in this commentary cabin, but for him, with 40 kilometers plus behind him, he's got to be feeling the pressure now. The only thing is, he knows he's got that gap. I haven't seen him once look behind him to see what's going on. Have you?
The only one checked when he wanted the pacemaker to come back to him.
Yeah, that's true. He gestured, didn't he?
Behind and,
here he takes the final left-hand turn, then onto Paryżka Street, and now he can more or less see the finish line in front of him. It's dead straight down towards the old city square, the old town square. The river is behind him. Those glorious angel-topped columns are a fitting backdrop. The big, up in the top of the picture there, you can see the red pendulum clock that is high above the city on the escarpment there. And he heads towards the line now with just a minute or two of running to come. 2:06 on the clock. He knows he's got the race won here. He doesn't need to sprint hard, no particular target. But Norbert Keegan has got it very right on this day. Michel, superbly executed marathon.
Yeah, he actually was in the back of the group for most of the first 25 kilometers. Never really bothered about the pace, but when it mattered, when the pacemakers were still running 3:02, 3:01, 2:59s, he closed the gap and got in the lead. That's Wolde Regai in second, chasing, but coming too late.
So Wolde Regai in second place, but the leader coming towards the line now is the 29-year-old Kenyan Norbert Keegan, running for Team Birrell. It has been a brilliant run from the very slight little Kenyan. In his 10th marathon start, he heads for the Old Town Square. And Keegan, who has dropped out of 2 of his 9 marathons so far, hasn't dropped out today. It will be a major victory. He was 3rd here last year in the Battle of the Teams. Onto the blue carpet and onto glory and the win. The head rocking from side to side. He's given it everything. But the 26th edition of the Volkswagen Prague Marathon is his. It goes to the Kenyan, Norbert Keegan. He's won 7 of his many marathons. As Wolde Regai back in 3rd place. But this coming through now and looking so strong is Kelkile Wolde Regai onto the carpet, making his 17th marathon start. He's broken 2:08 on many occasions, just outside that today, unofficially 2:08.30 for the Ethiopian 25-year-old in second place. And Zarehun there coming through for 3rd place. Yeti Al-Zarehun, 2nd and 3rd for Ethiopia. Zarehun is a 2:06 performer. I got his time there at about 2:08.47 unofficially. In fourth place, Edwin Kozgai. He's held on well, and again, about 2:08.58 for him. Anything under 2:10, Michel, in these warm, summer-like conditions, is brilliant running, good application.
Yeah, I think Prague Marathon has to be happy with. It was a wonderful race towards with late decision and still people chasing each other in the final kilometers. And yeah, and 2:07 winning time and several people under 2:10. I think Prague had worse results in the past. So yeah, lovely day with great running, great times, and I think Correa is feeling again what marathon is, running his final 100 meters. Not even focused on the time anymore. Just finishes in 2:09.53, also under 2:10. He struggled the last 4 kilometers.
Well, when you think that for most of the race he was a pacemaker, only changed status about over the last 10 kilometers or so. Been a great effort for him. Look at the crowds around the finish line, and they will grow. Davor there in charge of the elite athletes, welcoming him home. Ronald Correa, a very experienced marathon racer, on this occasion choosing Well, I'll tell you what, remarkably composed, wasn't he? Our race winner, Norbert Keegan, running for Team Birel today. We'll confirm those times for you as soon as we can. And this is Risper Chabette of Ethiopia. He's a 2:07 performer. That's from Geneva last year, the 33-year-old in the Team Volkswagen colours. It's only his 6th marathon. He's actually not a bad steeplechaser. He's an 8:38 steeplechaser. It's going to be his birthday on Wednesday, finishing in the top 10. But he is moving very, very smoothly, in control. But it's obviously been tough for him. I think a lot of these athletes, Michel, will have really felt this last 5-7 kilometers.
Yeah, if you come back in 69 minutes, that must have hurt for these type of athletes. But he runs till the finish line. He wants to finish the race. Didn't drop out, but won't be really happy with his performance, I would say.
No, as he crosses the line, I have him on 2:12.36 in his debut back in 2014. He won the Porto Marathon in 2:13. He's a little bit quicker than that today, but no, he won't be happy.
Gilbert Jeffrey Yegon, who, yeah, as the coach said, he was the best of the group in training. But you see, training is not always the same as competition, certainly not in these conditions. 2:13 for him.
Crosses the line just outside 2:13 for Team Generali, the 33-year-old. He's run a 59:44 half marathon, so I've always felt he's got the potential for something quicker. He's broken 60 minutes for the half marathon 4 times. But back to this leader in the women's race. And she has dominated this second half as Bekelec Borecha. 2:24, that personal best. What's she heading for now?
She had 1:57.11 at 35K. So It's 2:21 time. She will just outside 2:21. Still able to collect her bottle. Trying to drink something. These stages of the marathon, it's merely fooling your body, telling it something is coming, hoping it responds, because before those sugars are absorbed by your body, you've already finished. So you look cute on the podium. But there is a mental aspect to it. Can't fool the body a little bit. If you see Eliud Kipchoge, he's actually only washing the mouth in the last with the last bottle. He takes some drink and then spits it out.
By the way, the official winning time in that men's race for Keegan is coming through 2:07:54, it would seem. That's a semi-official. We'll wait for the results to come up on our screens before we make it absolutely rock solid. But 2:07:54, and the Wilder Regai in second place, 2:08:30. And just to complete the rostrum trio, third place was Zerhoun Yitayal in 2:08:44.
Here the Belgian Nicolai Sacquet.
Yeah.
If he can hold this, he can improve his personal best.
Well, he will. He's the Belgian Nicolai Sacquet. His best was 2:17:06 in Belp last year. Where's Belp?
Sorry? Belp. Oh, I think that was that race in Austria on a highway.
Okay.
There was some new highway. You know, last year there was so many marathons organized for people to get the Olympic
in strange
standard.
circumstances.
Yeah, so they organized marathons everywhere that were just pop-up events, that one time event.
Well, this might be one of the best runs of the day.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, 2:17:06 is his personal best. He's got just over a minute in which to get to the finish line.
So, he's one of the few who gets a personal best, and he'll score bonus points for that effort for the team standings.
That's true, he will.
Get a 3% bonus on top of the points. That will be another 30-something points. I could decide the team event. But he only has 36 seconds left to break that personal best, so he's not there yet.
He's nearly there. He's nearly there, the Belgian. 25 years old, Nicolai Sacquet. And now I think he's seen the line. He's sprinting. You know he's heading for a personal best. He ran 49:12 in the Antwerp 10 miles. Just a couple of weeks ago. And he's loving it because he knows he's broken 2:17 for the first time. 2:16:48 unofficially.
In these circumstances, that's a hell of a job.
That's what it means to him. Fantastic. A personal best in these conditions. You can see how much it means to him. He's a good, solid, national standard runner in Belgium, but he's just broken 2:17 for the first time. It was in Bern last year, in Austria, as you said, in April last year. So here he is, just over a year later, running quicker in far from ideal circumstances. Boy.
Here we have Borecha in her final kilometer. Just that one little climb before she can take a left. Oh, relaxing her arms. Everything must cramp up at the moment.
Well, you can see, when you say cramping, Michelle, tightening, that stride length has gone, hasn't it?
Completely.
Oh, Hattori, he's had a tough old second half. Boy, oh boy. Crosses the line there unofficially in 2:18:05. Wow, and he went through halfway in
63:13
with the pack.
Yes. Czech champion coming in.
Oh, that must have been an agonizing second half for the Japanese.
Jiri Omolac is coming. Still having an eye for the crowd. Running under 2:20 again. Picking up the national title.
And scoring well for his team as well. Jiri Omolac, the Czech team. Omelach, well, he is a 2:14 performer. He's run just inside 2:19 today in his 18th marathon start, and his 9th Prague Marathon yet again produces the goods. And he looks to have enjoyed that, doesn't he? Finishing in reasonable form, Jiri Omelach. Yet another clocking. It's his 10th clocking under 2:20.
Oh, he's struggling. He's the number 2 Czech.
Well, Bekelec Borecha at 35k. That was a little while ago now. Had a lead of, some 38 seconds. I think that has grown. She's being tugged along by this pacemaker who's doing a wonderful job for her Nasen chariot. And there is plenty of space on the road behind her. I think this is going to be a more comfortable win than that of Norbert Keegan. Keegan won, by the way, by 36 seconds from Kelkile Wolderegai, but I think this is going to be a bigger winning margin. And Michel, it's funny, isn't it? Because so much of the city is still cobbled here. It gives it that gloriously old feeling. But they're actually quite good quality cobbles. You know, there were sections of the old London Marathon course near the Tower of London that used to really give people trouble because it was rough cobbles. But here the cobbles are generally good quality cobbles.
It's not bad. It's okay. It's not perfect. It's not asphalt, but they're good cobbles. They shouldn't give a lot of problem, but it's sometimes also mental. You know, the athletes see cobbles and think it's difficult.
Do we have his name? Well, he's struggling all the way to the line. We do not have his name, but number 116 in the Volkswagen Prague Marathon of 2022 crosses the line just outside 2 hours 21, about 2 hours 21:09. And he too has given 101%. As with 2 hours 21 and a half almost on the clock, Michel Bekelec Borecha has survived the best of the ladies' pack that was together at halfway and is coming home to a pretty comfortable win.
Yeah, Nathan Chariot gave her blessing, gave his blessing to her and said, now it's yours. This is your podium, this is your win. Go and enjoy it. He did a good job. Unfortunately, she couldn't enable that 2:20 pace towards the end. But now she's smelling the finish line and give it one last go.
Yeah, really solid professional job done by the pacemaker Nathan Chariot. And quite rightly leaves the glory of the last 200 or 300 meters to the leading lady all to herself. So at 25k, she had a lead of just 3 seconds. At 30k, that had grown significantly to some 24 seconds. And at 35k, it had grown to 38 seconds. And she comes towards the line now for a long, long time. It looked like she was going to break 2:20. That was the ambition for 3 or 4 of the ladies today. But I think when they saw the weather forecasts and the warm weather that we all saw when we looked out of our windows early this morning, we knew it was unlikely. Far from ideal conditions, but nonetheless, she is the champion of this 26th edition of the Volkswagen Prague Marathon. Bekelec Borecha of Ethiopia comes to victory in her 4th marathon start. Her time unofficially 2:22:57, just under 2 hours 23. And how good must that feeling be to get the weight off your legs?
Yeah, and a huge personal best for her. She breaks it with over 1.5 minutes. Great run by Borecha.
And here is Feifar.
Running his debut, finishing in 2:23. Yeah, finishing is task 1, and he did a good job in his debut. Was also eyeing this 2:20 time. Just finished behind the first woman.
About 2:23:30 for Ondrej Feifar there of the Czech Republic, making his debut, as you made clear, Michel. And here is the battle for second place. Wow.
So Purity Changwani came back, was over a minute behind, 1:17 behind.
This is Sintayehu Haile-Michael. Is she going to catch her?
I think she will.
Well, Purity Changwani for the Generali team, working hard with the arms, trying desperately to come back. This is the battle for second place in the women's race. We know that Bekele Borecha was a comfortable winner, but these two, with about 100 meters to run, side by side, it's not what every marathon runner wants, and she has got past her. Purity Changwani, the 32-year-old Kenyan, in her 6th marathon. She's won 2 of her first 5, including Ljubljana in 2016 and Nairobi 3 years back, where she ran 2:30. And this for Purity Changwani, who in the press conference on Friday was telling me that she has one daughter, Lenza, who I'm sure will be celebrating this win with her husband, this second place with her husband, Robert Bett. Great running from the Kenyan onto the blue carpet, and she's opened up a big gap on the third place over this time. 2:25.10 unofficially. And in second place there, coming home, in third place rather, Sintayehu Haile-Michael in about 2:25.24. Totally spent.
Well, she went out in that fast pace as well. Purity Changwani let go already long time before. Ran a more even pace than all the other female athletes.
Well, Purity Changwani taking second place then in that women's marathon, unofficially in 2:25.10, sandwiched between the champion Borecha and Haile-Michael in third place. But the winning performance in the men's race, a superbly impressive run from Norbert Keegan of Kenya. In his 10th marathon start, he hits the big money with a big win. And his time unofficially 2:07.54 to cross the line there, ahead of Kelkile Wolderegai of Ethiopia, 2:08.30, some 26 seconds back. And Yitial Zerehun in third place with 2:08.44. Again, the East Africans dominate. That was expected. But Michel, despite really tough, challenging conditions with climbing temperatures through the second half, the quality of the racing today in Prague was top-notch.
I can't disagree on that. I think the guys really displayed a nice marathon. Really fought for it, really went for it as well. Tried to run as fast as possible, and this is what the conditions gave them.
And there is the official result of that men's Volkswagen Prague Marathon. Norbert Keegan, 2:07.54 from Kelkile Wolderegai, 2:08.30, and Zerehun, 2:08.44. And Keegan and Correa making sure that it was 3 Kenyans and 3 Ethiopians in the top 6. Well, it was a case of survival. In glorious isolation, she crosses the line as the women's champion today, Bekele Borecha, running for Team Ches, the 24-year-old. Comfortably victorious. Gave absolutely everything for so long a time, was in the lead. And Michel, this battle for the minor places, eventually won by Purity Changwani for the Generali team, the 32-year-old Kenyan, taking second ahead of Sintayehu Haile-Michael of Ethiopia. So again, a Kenyan in between the Ethiopian sandwich of Borecha and Haile-Michael in first and third. Those glorious red roofs just tell you about age, don't they? It just looks old when you see it from above. Well, some of the good national standard Czech athletes coming through on the clock now. The time is 2 hours 28, approaching 2 hours 29. and think for a moment about the masses out there on the roads yet for another hour or two or more in these very warm temperatures in Prague. So this gentleman crossing the line in just outside 2:29. And if these athletes have signed up for one of the teams in the Battle of the Teams contest, their results will contribute to the overall team contest. Just to remind you that the first 4 elite athletes home for each team will have their times converted into points, and then the mass of athletes behind will be the 5th scorer, because the average of the times of those who have signed up for any one team is turned into points, and they become the 5th scorer.
She was the early leader and very dominant in the women's leading group in the beginning. Risper Chabette paid the price. She'll finish in.
Just eases under 2:30, 2:29.53. Yeah. I got her out there officially. So despite, as you say, a really difficult second half, I'm the leader through halfway.
Yeah. She held it somehow together.
So our leaders then, our leading trio in that men's race. In 3rd place, Yetial Zerihun, 2:08.44. In 3rd place, Kalkile Wilderagay, 2:08.30. But the champion, Norbert Keegan, 2:07.54. Not often in Central Europe in May do you have to put up with such high temperatures, but he put up with them today, and he batted them away like a true champion. Running for Team Birel, the Kenyan runs 2:07.54 to win by 36 seconds. The Mayor of Prague there presenting the medals for the first 3, and good prize money, Michel. It all matters. These are professionals. Let's not forget that at the end of the day.
Yeah. He walks home with the first prize of $12,500, which is useful money. Will get a bonus from his sponsor Adidas for winning this race, because Prague considered also by the shoe companies a big race. And the win will probably elevate him into the priority list of some other marathons in the fall.
Rather special Czech crystal trophy awarded to each of the first 3 along with their medal.
Hope they don't have slippery hands. You know.
I know. Where is it? Berlin. They've given a massive, massive glass of stein of beer, aren't they? Look at that. That is beautiful. Might make him an offer for that later on in the hotel.
Would you trade it for your bottle of wine?
I'm not sure he'd appreciate the wine in quite the same way you and I would. No, those are truly gorgeous trophies. Oh, and the key to a car? Is that what I think it is?
It's the key to a car, but I don't think he can keep it, though.
Be a heck of a big car.
Keep the car. I keep the key.
Well, that's nice, isn't it? She knew she was up against a very tough field, didn't expect the win, but she gets the win today. Does Bekelec Borecha. Her time 2:22.56. And the key and a car. Michelle, are you thinking what I'm thinking?
I hope for him he can keep it.
I haven't heard about a car being awarded to the winner.
I also didn't hear it, but maybe he can claim it now.
Tantalising. Mind you, you'd have trouble finding somewhere to put that key.
Yeah, we're slowly updating the team scores. It looks like Generali and Volkswagen are battling it out at the moment. But
Very
these conditions could also be that not every team might have 4 elite scorers.
Oh, I think you're right.
Generali and Volkswagen, they already have 4 finishes.
It would seem like it, as other athletes continue to finish, but Ches, Matoni and Birel in 3, 4, 5 on the team scores at the moment, but I suspect, yes, there are more athletes to come through just yet, but Generali with 4, 4, 2, 4 ahead of Volkswagen 4, 3, 5, 8 at the moment.
So then the all runners will determine it for them. It's 66 points difference. That can easily be made up by the mass runners.
Absolutely.
So here we get another one for Birel.
That's Berho Guide in the women's field. It's making her debut. It's been a bit of a baptism of fire for her, hasn't it? When you think that it's 2:35 in the clock now, she's got another, well, minute or so of running to come down Paris Street, Pariska Street. Then she's a 67-minute half marathon runner. She was second in Naples last year, a couple of years ago actually, in 67.57. So proof, I suppose, Michelle, that being a great half marathon runner doesn't guarantee a successful transfer to the full marathon distance. This is a tough, tough debut she's had today.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have discussions with that often with the coaches in Kenya when people want to transform to marathon. The athlete, of course, thinks he can make that transition in one season, maybe a 4-month period. But yeah, some coaches said we have to adjust the whole energy system, and it will take us 12 months to make that perfect.
Well, she ran in Herzogenaurach last Saturday, 8 days ago, ran in the 10K, finished in 12th place there. As we go to the presentations for the first 3 ladies. And in 3rd place, Yetial Zerihun. Purity Changwoni takes 2nd place. Changwoni, 2:25.11, just ahead of Haile Michaels at 2:25.21. But the champion, Borecha. And how special was this performance from her? Bekelec Borecha for Ethiopia, 2:22.56. Surely worth 2 or 3 minutes. That might intrinsically be worth sub 2:20 that time. In very warm weather. When you think in the Berlin Marathon most years, the temperature around start time is about 7 to 8 degrees centigrade. Athletes actually want a cool temperature to start and to build through to, I don't know, 12, 13 degrees maybe in the latter part of the race, but still coolness that enables you to not generate too much internal heat. But today, these athletes, every single one of them, battling through the last few kilometers, Michelle, and 2:22.56, something to be very proud of. And, you know, the times are one thing. The win is the most important thing.
But she absolutely showed that there's even more to come. She attacked the race in 2:20 pace. She ends up in 2:22.56, but she improves her personal best with almost 2 minutes.
She comes from 1 minute 55 second PB.
So, I mean, if I was an organizer, I would call the manager and say, hey, I would give her a chance in my race.
Absolutely.
Because this lady can give you a sub 2:20 under ideal conditions.
Do you think when you've had a tough marathon like this in very warm conditions and a day like this, as we see Marcela Joglova of the Czech Republic, she's one of the scorers in the team Birel squad. Do you think it takes longer to recover, though, after a hot weather marathon like this? Do you need to add another few weeks to your recovery?
Well, I think it depends on how painful it was. Of course, we have had stories of athletes going to championships and running with over 30 degrees and really beating up their hormone system that much that they never recovered for it. I don't think it was that bad today.
Yeah.
But of course, it's a bit. You have to be a bit cautious in the next few weeks and really take care of your recovery. Actually, it starts already now by eating and drinking well, and don't let your body suffer too long.
Yeah, these athletes will be taking in plenty of liquids and nutrients, tons of food over the next 24 hours. There is talk about the golden hour after a marathon, a really hard endurance effort in which your body more rapidly receives nutrients, and it reduces the damage done to the cells.
But then don't win a marathon, because there's so many protocols to follow. You don't have time to eat and drink. And
well, the protocols, yeah, that's true. I mean, obviously they have to go through these victory ceremonies.
Press, drug testing.
But I think I would make my own personal recovery after the essentials priority. For example,
we'll talk
drug testing has to wait for media.
We have to apologize. We talk straight through.
I know, we're talking straight through the Ethiopian national anthem, the glorious tune we've heard many, many times. So Ethiopia 1 and 3 then. Purity Changwoni taking second place.
And Joglova taking the national title for Czech Republic.
Of course. 2:40 on the clock now. Joglova's time we will confirm for you as soon as we can, but she is unofficially the Czech champion. Well, Purity Changwoni, had a long chat with her after the press conference on Friday, said she's an Arsenal fan, follows the English Premier League. But that's that sport. This is this sport, the sport of marathon running, which has been celebrated supremely well today in the city of Prague. The Czech capital has hosted the 26th edition of the Volkswagen Prague Marathon. Great numbers, glorious sunshine, fabulous racing, and fast times in this warm spring sunshine of 2022 in Central Europe. We've enjoyed the coverage today enormously. I hope you have too, and we'll go off and enjoy the rest of your Sunday wherever you're viewing. But the athletes have served us well, and racing is back. The battle of the teams continues to go from strength to strength. The result will be decided tonight. But from myself, Tim Hutchings, and Michel Boating beside me here in the old town square in the center of Prague, the glorious city of Prague, it's bye-bye for now. And I think we might head off some rather cool liquid refreshment. We'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.